The game was drawn?
He still made it him. Oh my God.
I saw a thing that popped up. Game
Dude,
drawn
I
by
was
6.
literally just like looking away to check in with my staff, talk about our transition, prepare the Pacific. That's why you play it out to mate, kids.
What in the...
He pre-moved H5. He
Oh
pre-moved
my.
H5. Oh
King
my
H2.
gosh. Talk about a blunder. It's time for people to use our emotes. If you haven't subscribed to Chess.com on Twitch,
Oh my.
then you don't get to do what I just did in the chat. Holy shenanigans. Well, that's all you need to have, buddy, because the Atlantic Division is kicking off. They are getting underway right now, and you and I are going to start things off in probably the most obvious place to do so. Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana officially makes his Pro Chess League debut in Week 3, everybody, for the St. Louis Archbishops, and he's taking on a young man who I did have in my fantasy team, that being Nicholas Rosenthal, excuse the nickname, who had a great season last year playing for, guess who? The St. Louis Archbishops. So this is a great place to start as far as showing some of the dynamics of the league, right? You have free agent acquisitions, getting Caruana to the Bishops. You lose people, right? You lose a great board four like Rosenthal, who goes and plays for Miami as not necessarily a free agent acquisition, but a local player. So this matchup that's getting underway right now between St. Louis and Miami should have us on the edge of our seats today.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting matchup. And not only does St. Louis have one 2,800 player in Caruana, they have a 27, 30, 40, whatever his rating is now in Fedoseev, right? And Fedoseev disappointed last week. I believe he only went 2 out of 4. So he needs to improve his score against a pretty strong Miami team. And like you said, Rosenthal's on board 4. He's trying to get things spicy because he can upset a grandmaster at any moment. He beat Maxime Vacher-Lagrave. And if he can beat Fabiano Caruana, that would be the one, perhaps the biggest or second biggest upset in Pro Chess League history besides his win over MVL last year.
Well, you mentioned Caruana. The games are just getting underway, everybody, so we're going to remind you of what you're about to see over the next few hours. Of course, you already mentioned that Fedoseev is also playing alongside Caruana. Probably two of the, this might be the first time in league history, I'll have someone check on that we had two north of these 27-20 players playing on the same team, that being Fedoseev and Caruana. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee a win. Also getting set to start here pretty soon is young man Andrew Tang playing for the Minnesota Blizzard, who, if everyone remembers, Week 1 helped lead the Blizzard to an upset over the St. Louis Archbishops. And I already know that the fans have been asking in the Twitch chat, when do the Chessbrahs get underway and what is their lineup this week? We've got Eric Hansen, you've got Jordan Van Forest, you've got the man with the beard, formerly with the beard, in Amon Hamilton. No picture here, but then, of course, we also have Dr. Usetic, who is also well known here. So, all right, the games are underway. You and I are jumping in, and let's do it, sir. Let's do it. Where we want to go?
Well, I guess we might as well start with Fabiano's position, right? I mean, he's the highest rated player in the matchup, a fan favorite, and a former Chessbrah. So Caruana with the black piece is a very solid setup here. We note that white has his isolated pawn on d4. So what black has right now, this knight on d5, is a blockading piece, making sure that pawn d4 can't move. White is going to need to defend that pawn throughout the game. Black is going to try to pile up pressure on it. Although what white tends to do with that isolated pawn is use it as a lever, right? Put a knight on e5, use it as support, and also prevent black from playing c5 and gaining more space. So I think right now the position's about level, although, I mean, as time goes on, Fabiano, of course, is the one who will gain an advantage because he's a much stronger player.
Yeah, and he's already got a 2-minute time advantage on the clock, which obviously Rosenthal can handle himself in blitz and bullet, but you start to see that in a positional game, where, as you highlighted, the IQP dynamics will be the main positional feature, you certainly have to like Caruana's chances. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to our to another game here in the Atlantic Division. Where to go? We have more games happening for the between the St. Louis Archbishops and the Miami Champions. Aboard 2 here we have Alejandro Ramirez taking on Grandmaster Quesada. What do we got in this one?
Well, actually, I have Alejandro Ramirez on my fantasy chess team as the board 3. Because,
so you're going to be a little biased in this one then?
I definitely will not be biased. I always like making fun of Alejandro. We're good friends. So I need him to win for my fantasy team. I love making fun of him. It's kind of a trade-off. But here, look at that bishop on a3. It's saying to black, you're not castling anytime soon. Well, if you are going to castle, you're going to block this bishop because right now castling is illegal. You can't castle through check. If you play a move like pawn to c5, you always have to be careful about being left with what's called hanging pawns. For example, if you go c5, white can then consider capturing the pawn, well, either pawn, but you can capture on d5 first and then intend to capture on c5 later. And the difficulty from black's point of view is, let's say you take on d5 with the c pawn, black takes back with the knight on d5, and white then could play a move like knight e4 even. And the point is that it's very difficult for black to simultaneously castle and then deal with the problem on c5 because the pawn on c5 still will be pinned because the rook on f8 will be hanging after castling. So I think white is getting the pressure that he desired when playing an opening like this.
Yeah. No, and it already looks like Quesada's having to go into the think tank here, going to have to figure out how he wants to deal with that bishop. Given that the last move right before this was a move like bishop g7, it makes you wonder whether a move like that could have possibly have just been missed by a grandmaster to not see bishop h3. You highly doubt it. The position is still certainly dynamic enough, but this is one I think we should keep our eye on, Robert, because it could become really sharp really fast here. So, all right. Another game taking place between the St. Louis Archbishops, the first match that got started here. Grandmaster Ituri Zaga is taking on who I believe is the board 4 this week for the St. Louis Archbishops, and Forrest Chen. What do you think about this one?
Firstly, I like Forrest Chen. He had some good games last week, I believe it was, where he actually drew a grandmaster, and so he can be a bit dangerous. However, right now, I think his position is dangerous, and he is not, because that pawn on c4 for black is nicely passed. Normally, for black to get this kind of queenside pressure, you're down a pawn. Mm-hmm. However, right now, their material is level. So not only is white not up that pawn, that c4 pawn is actually a quite menacing pass pawn. And I think that black's queen and rook on the a file give black a much better position with threats of rook a2. And if you go knight c3 to stop rook a2, black can even consider just taking on c3 and then bringing the rook to a2 next. So it's a tough position for white.
Yeah, as I show some of the lines you're talking about on the board here, it looks like this would be some serious problems. Now, black has just immediately infiltrated into the position after h3 with the move rook a2. The queen moved, and here comes c3. Yeah, this looks like it could be over quickly. So, Forrest Chen, as you said, you like Forrest Chen, but I don't know that he's going to be starting off his week 3 on the right foot here. This position looks... I don't want to say borderline resignable, but this looks super tough. After the move c3, not only is c2 a threat, queen a6 is coming. Okay, so white's just going to sacrifice the exchange, probably the best decision possible there.
Also, white is moving very quickly considering how difficult the position's been, and that's not a good sign when Ituri Zaga's still up 3.5 minutes and also just crushing on the board. So this game is practically over for all intents and purposes. So the only one we haven't looked at is Vladimir Fedoseev with the black pieces against Julio Becerra. And Julio, I've known for many years. We played a bunch of games. He's not as active anymore, but quite a strong player, especially when he is in his prime, and a very difficult player to beat. And as we look at the game right now, Julio has the white pieces. He has the 2 bishops, symmetrical pawn structure. Only white can be better in this position. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a perfect decision against a stronger opponent. Because, yes, Fedoseev may be 200 points higher rated, but no, for sure, Julio is not going to just back down against him. So I really like white's position. I think that Fedoseev is going to have a very difficult time trying to even come close to gaining a full point in this game.
Yep. And for those who don't know Julio Becerra as well as, well, I guess they should, he was a former author here on Chess.com, a regular contributor, but really was well known for some great performances in the Pro Chess League's predecessor, that being the U.S. Chess League. Longer time controls, a different format for sure, but Julio Becerra is very comfortable in the online match setting and has been known to get some big upsets against really big names when it counts for his team. So I think the Becerra performance today is going to be a big one for the Miami champions. They obviously put him as one of the top boards for a reason. And I agree with you. This looks like the kind of Lopez structure that Becerra is just very, very comfortable in. So, all right, the second matchup that's already underway. Well, I think all 4 are underway as we kind of go through them. Let's, where to go? Let's, there's a lot of strong players on this site playing Blitz right now. We have Grandmaster Dominguez Perez. We have Ariane Tari playing Blitz on Chess.com. So I almost wanted to click on those to see, but we're here for the Pro Chess League, Robert. Shame on you.
Yeah, it's actually bugging me too because I keep almost clicking on those blitz games and being like, wait a second, how do they have such little time left?
Yeah. So I'm scrolling down to some other games. Okay, the Minnesota Blizzard are underway. We talked about the fact that Andrew Tang is here, leading the Minnesota Blizzard on board 1, currently taking on the board 4 for the pawn grabbers, of course. That is Jennifer Yu. So what do you think about this one as it just gets underway?
I just got to say, I love this matchup. And I've always had this discussion, argument, whatever you want to call it, with people about, is it better to have your team stacked, as St. Louis does, with 3 very high-rated grandmasters and a very low board 4, or to have a pretty even team throughout? So I love that these two are a matchup of 2-0 teams, undefeated, who both have not stacked their lineup. A lot of local talent. So in this match, if we're going to start with Jennifer Yu's game, I already like what she's doing here. She's got a slightly better position. Black has double pawns, right? These e-pawns are doubled, which means that once the move queen c2 appears on the board, Black is going to be forced to play the move pawn to f5. And so what White is doing, that's Jennifer Yu. And if you don't know Jennifer Yu, what have you been doing? You better watch out for that name for years to come because she's incredibly strong. But in this particular moment here, after trading on e5, now Black has to figure this out. Do I make the move f6? Well, if I go f6, I'm probably going to have to go f5 later anyway. White's plan is quite straightforward. Play queen c2. Well, okay, now I was going to say...
She's playing very, very fast here. She's just...
Well, Danny, what do you think about this move b4? I was thinking you could get away with just going queen c2 first, because was Black really intending to capture that pawn on c5 there? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wonder the same thing. I think maybe she thought that after captures queen to d5 was a possibility, knowing that a move like bishop to d4... Well, I thought it could have been met by e5, but maybe bishop c4 would have been a response there. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what she calculated as far as why play b4 so quickly. Maybe she just recognized that she knew she could meet a5 with a3 and that the rook was defended, and all she cares about is keeping the queenside structure closed. I agree with you that White is better, but then again, she's playing Andrew Tang, who I think is a much stronger player despite the talented, despite how talented Jennifer Yu is. So after b4 was played, Tang plays f6, and don't be surprised if he tries to make this thing dynamic very quickly with a move like e5 in the center here to try to start busting things open.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Tang is not going to just fear White's kind of menacing pawn structure. Instead, he will try to make things tactical, but I love White's position. I have actually full faith in Jennifer Yu that she'll be all right in this game, especially how quickly she's playing. She's clearly knows what she's doing. She's seen this before, prepared it, and so I like her chances thus far.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on this one. Obviously, there are other games for the Minnesota Blizzard taking on the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers. Of course, another fan favorite and very well-known chess streamer, chess personality, chess video guy, whatever you want to call him. That's International Master John Bartholomew, playing against Awonder Liang, and it's no wonder that it only took me about 10 minutes into the show to make that pun. Go ahead.
I'm already upset at you for making that pun, and we do have 2 very popular players on this board, right? Because Awonder is, well, a wonder, if we're going to make that joke, but he is extremely talented chess player who is a strong grandmaster. I believe his FIDE is now into the 2570s, and of course we have John Bartholomew, hashtag Team Scandy, hashtag the Scandy's not good.
Thank you for being another title player to back me up. John makes it look better than it is.
Well, he makes everything.
It's kind of like how you make facial hair look better than it is, you know.
Oh no, I mean you don't gotta feed me false compliments. But in this position, Danny, on the board, look what Awonder did. He double fianchettoed, and actually something that I like about this from Black's perspective is it keeps the game pretty dynamic, right? So both sides are doing different things. I have seen, and this is what I've learned from now this is the 3rd week of the Pro Chess League. Sometimes the stronger players don't make the game dynamic enough. They don't make the position, they don't unbalance the position, and instead they get into kind of dry positions where the lower rated player with the white pieces is slightly better all game and has no risk.
Right. Well, it's very similar to the game we highlighted in the halftime show, right? The game between Grandmaster Thorlinson and the 2100 stud in the making from the Turtles. Exactly.
No, 100% accurate. And so here, I think that Awonder, he's the stronger player, despite Bartholomew being a very talented player in his own right and incredibly popular streamer and YouTuber. But I think so far the positions we're still in book more or less. But I like the fact that Awonder's mixing it up. And after knight takes d2 here, Black gets the 2 bishops, and you have to make a pretty important decision. Do you play e5 from Black, which closes down your bishop on g7 and kind of lessens the advantage of having the 2 bishops, or do you eventually allow white to capture on e6? I think you have to go e5, and it was played. Now black's going to go f5, and the bishop can always reroute itself to h6. White's typical plan of b4, c5 is very hard to make happen because black can just put the knight on d7, and I don't know how you're getting the c5 move in with ease. So I like black's position. I generally prefer to have the two bishops, and so I think Awonder has done the right thing thus far.
Okay. Well, certainly you highlight, at least from a practical perspective, he's trying to mix it up. And once we see this structure on the board, we know we're going to have, call it a bit of a race, right? I think Awonder will play knight d7 here to hold c5, as you said. But Finns is not going to turn away from trying to punch counterplay open here on the queen side and look for black to play moves like f5, whether it's followed by e4 or f4. And so we're going to have a dynamic battle for sure. You mentioned Bartholomew being a streamer, and on that note, we have to remember what we're doing here, of course, is providing a show. I just want to give our first shout out to everybody who's with us, whether you're watching at Twitch TV/chess, Chess.com TV. We see all of you. Chess Bay, shout out to you. Shout out to all of our premium diamond members in the Chess.com TV chat. Liam Shez, you've been here, I think, all day. Not sure what else you're doing with your life. Just kidding, buddy. And of course, Vadarsh, everybody who's here, appreciate it. Thank you to all of our subscribers and all the love you guys show us. We're hoping to have a fun day today. The show is just getting started. Let us know what you think about the stats and the scoreboard that we've kind of updated. If you like the visual and the extra information we're trying to bring as chess breaks its way into the e-sport industry, let us know what you think about our presentation here. All right, Robert. Let's dive into the next game from the Minnesota. I know you've been waiting for this because all you do is talk about finagling your way into the next time you get to cover a Sean Nagel game. Well, I'm rewarding you right now, buddy. It's time for Sean. It's Sean Nagel time. What do you got?
Well, actually, I'm not sure it's Nagel time or Shabba Dabba Ding Dong time.
That's true, because these are two of our favorite players. You know, I have known Sean probably since I was 12 years old. And
really?
And the Nagel and I went to our first like super intensive invitational chess camp together. I was like one of the younger players in the room. He was one of the older players. Just saying. But anyway, no. But it was the Edmar Mendes camp, the late Grandmaster Edmar Mendes, who ran an amazing camp for young, talented American players. But that's where I first met Sean a long time ago. Anyway, back to the game. Shabba versus Sean. What do we got?
I think Nagel's playing perfectly thus far. Rook AD1 here, just strengthening your center. And what Shabba does is what I was just saying before. He's a higher rated player than Nagel. He's trying to mix it up. However, Nagel's not always the best player to do that against because that man is extremely solid and strategic. So if you're going to mix it up by giving yourself some weaknesses, some holes to exploit, a passive position, Nagel certainly is going to take advantage of it. And for example, here, white is quickly threatening to move pawn to d5 if black is not careful. So bishop f3 was necessary because you go d5, your bishop on b7 is just a giant pawn. But now by doing this, white still has the two bishops advantage. The bishop on a2 is a particularly useless piece for the time being. However, white can always swing the knight to e2, go pawn c3, bishop to b1, and then go g4 and start just throwing pawns up on the king side. Black lacks space, and white should take advantage of it. So right now,
he does it right away, and I got to tell you, I feel like this game has upset special written on it. And look at Shabba. He knows, he smells a rat. He's not going to sit here and try to play c5 and just throw pawns into the wind on the queen side and let white have time to gang up. Shabba's going to immediately change the structure, and he does so with the move f6. So I still think you're right. I think this is a good game for Nagel so far, but it just shows you a guy like Shabba's understanding of the dynamic nature of this position. He's not going to let the structure sit tight where white can just build up.
Yeah, I love Shabba. So this is, I'm rooting for just a great game. That's my fandom at work.
All right, well, let's move on to the next game between the Minnesota Blizzard. Okay, obviously international master, probably soon to be grandmaster Daniel Gurevich taking on Atul Shetty. This one is already these two players need to slow down a little bit, huh? Maybe somebody should remind them they've got a little more time on the clock. A lot of pieces already, a very open position. First instincts tell me that white's just up a pawn and that black has no compensation. Your thoughts?
My first instincts are the exact opposite, that white is up a pawn and black is better. And
what?
The reason why
mind blown. Are we about to have a teaching moment from Bobby Hess?
We are, and you don't have your jingle, I bet. But
okay.
Look at the queen side, right? The knight on b1 is undeveloped. The bishop c1 is similarly undeveloped. Black right now can play a move like knight b4, heading into d3. I like after knight b4, black can also swing that bishop back to b7, hitting the knight on f3. So if black can somehow go, put a queen on the diagonal, the b8 h2 diagonal, put the bishop on b7, go knight g4. There are actually tactics in the air as well. So I just feel like white, generally speaking, has a tough time getting the pieces out fully. And black, despite being a pawn down, at least has full compensation. And white's life is actually not so easy.
All right. Well, as I let you finish that point there, buddy, we got to go right back to the game that we started today with, the strongest player in the field of any Pro Chess League team, really, who besides Magnus Carlsen. Fabiano Caruana looks on his way to winning easily against the young Nick Rosenthal, who didn't manage his time well. We started seeing the writing on the wall, right? About 15 minutes ago, Rosenthal started taking his time, and it looks like that's going to be the thing that decides this game, as Fabiano just kind of mops up here and starts gobbling pawns.
Yeah, and the bishop on a4 is under attack. All the pawns are hanging. So, and I think someone like Maxime Vacher-Lagrave might challenge your assertion that Fabiano is the best player outside of Magnus Carlsen. Of course, MBL is not in the candidate, so can't prove it. But it's just something to,
I said highest rated. Isn't Fabiano the highest rated?
The live ratings probably not, because Fabiano had a terrible tournament in the Tata Steel Masters.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected. No, I mean, you know how I feel about Maxime. I got a fat head of him in my office right here. Maybe he'll make a debut, and Maxime can tell me his feelings. But no, you're right. Obviously, Maxime Vacher-Lagrave already played earlier today. But with Fabiano Caruana getting that win, that means we will leave that one behind and move on to the second game we started with. One of your favorites, Handi himself, on your fantasy team, is a little better here against Grandmaster Quesada. Seems to have broken through on the queen side, and this d-pawn can't be taken with the bishop because it's pinned, but taking with the rook might have unintended tactical consequences on the long diagonal here.
And rook a8 looks like the first move that should be played because it traps white's queen.
But then we have d6, right?
At the rook a8, you have d6, or bishop takes e5. Because by going bishop takes e5, you threaten the queen on c7 and open the rook on b1 to the protection to defend or attack the b6 square so the queen can take on b6.
That's probably even better.
I think Quesada overlooked that his pawn e7 would actually be under attack,
right?
Because he did not have to allow Alejandro to do so. And now that he's lost a7, he's down a pawn. And maybe black can try, is knight d7 possible here? It's intending that if your bishop takes g7, I'll go rook a8, trapping your queen now. But there's still d6 problems.
Yeah, there's still all kinds of weirdness in the air with d6, followed by moves like knight f6 check with discovery, everybody, and then b7 falls anyway. I agree with you. I backed up a couple moves as you said that, because it's an instructive moment for the fans when you see that, when you've calculated so many games like you've calculated so many games with patterns where pawns like on a7 are not normally capturable, and you'd maybe take it for granted, because as Robert said, bishop e7 didn't have to be played. Black probably could have played the move bishop to c8 and still been okay here. The queen would have guarded a7. But when you've seen patterns where, all right, no way he can gobble a pawn on a7 like that, right? And then suddenly they do it in a game, you realize you can never take tactics for granted, even if it looks dangerous for your opponent to gobble a pawn with the queen on the edge of the board. And Quesada's gone into the think tank here, so I think your suspicions are correct that he just didn't expect Alejandro to take that pawn.
Yeah, just, I think an oversight. And while we're talking about this position, the Chessbrahs are underway against the Montclair Sopranos. I do love the Sopranos. I played on the team last year. The Chessbrahs are also incredibly fun to watch, so it's going to be a great matchup. And we see Bassem Amin, that's Dr. Bassem is his username, and he's playing a doctor. I believe Elias Usetic is also a doctor. So
he's a real doctor, right?
Well, both of them are, right?
Both of them, they're both, I don't even know what I'm saying. They're both real doctors.
They're MDs. Instead of saying real doctors, we'll say they're MDs.
They are MDs, which I don't even have any kind of D in my name. Wait, besides my first name, that got weird. I don't know where I'm going. All right, let's go. All right, so we've got Lenderman taking on Hambleton. That'll be one of the closer contested matchups, usually to start when you have board fours taking on board ones. But okay, we also have already opened the board, as you saw, between Grandmaster Jordan Van Forest and Sergei Ehrenberg, the other potentially really tight game in this match, in this round. Here we go. National Master Usetic taking on Bassem Amin, as you said, the battle of doctors, battle of MDs. And then lastly, of course, we have Eric Hansen taking on
Dan Smith. Who's more popular, the former number one poker, or is he still the number one poker player in the world, in Dan Smith, or Eric Hansen, obviously the most lovable Chessbrah? So this is a interesting battle. And so far, I like Dan Smith's position. Not to be underestimated. I mean, he's been studying chess a little bit more seriously lately. I ran into him in New York several months ago, and he was telling me how he wants to get back into the game. And he's someone who played a lot when he was younger.
Yep.
Switch over to poker, which clearly was a good life choice when he's doing as well as
Dan Smith was really, I mean, he was kind of a trendsetter. He was one of the first guys that you saw at the top of the world poker in all those, when poker really made its big TV jump, right? You saw Dan Smith, and the thing that was always associated with Dan Smith was that he was a national chess master. And at that time, it was a big deal because there weren't other top chess players in the poker door. Of course, now you see so many chess players who have jumped the shark to poker, if you will.
Yeah. And now he's jumping back over to chess a little bit, which I was glad to see and hear from him. But so far it's a very normal position. I don't think there's anything really to speak too much about. This is exactly what you get when you play the Philidor defense as black. You get a slightly worse position, less space, and Dan is doing everything correct in the early going. He's actually also doing well in the clock, 11 and a half minutes.
And speaking of the clock, there are two games that are really close. We talked about Alejandro Ramirez's game against Grandmaster Quesada, but let's go back to Fedoseyev's game against Julio Becerra. This one the structure has changed greatly since the last time we saw it, and with it, we've also seen Fedoseyev grab a lead on the clock. So this is why Fedoseyev is known as a super grandmaster when you see those numbers get north of 27-20, 27-30. And here Black looks better than I thought he would be given how this one started.
Yeah, because earlier White had two bishops and it looked like no problems whatsoever. Now, if Black takes on f4 at some point, even now, then White is left with this isolated e4 pawn, which is difficult to defend. The 92 has to stay there. And just look at the activity that Black has. Two rooks down the pawn on b3. Look at White's pieces. They're all very defensive. The rook on c3 is not actually doing anything on the c file because knight d7 is doing well to protect the pawn on c5. The rook on c3 does protect the pawn on b3, but does little else. So if I'm Black here, I have to figure out how do I push forward. I know that I'm better. What's the right way to go? He did take.
Well, and he goes with what you did. I think taking f4 is good for another reason. You highlighted, of course, that the e4 pawn is weak, but I also just freed up the e5 square for my knight. And with this move, rook to b6, I think Fedoseyev has some nasty intentions in mind to flip over to the, you know what they say, the g file over there. We might have something happening over here on the g2 square at some point. So I like Fedoseyev's position a lot, and with the practical time pressure that Becerra's now in, it looks like St. Louis is really under the gun this round one. They're board four, really getting it taken to them. Is that game even still going? I'm not even sure that Chen has survived. We can go back, of course, to the game between Alejandro Ramirez and Quesada to double check. Okay, I mean, Quesada is doing okay here. He's down a pawn, but as pieces come off the board, you wonder whether his drawing chances will hold up. Would be big for Miami to not get blanked this round. Sorry, say that again?
No, I was going to say, I think that Black has quite decent drawing chances because if you take knight takes d4 and Black takes with the pawn on d4, you're going to have these two pawns that are weaknesses, the a2 and e2, and it's hard to defend both of them. So from Black's point of view, if I can get rid of my new pawn on d4, so the c pawn now gets traded for the pawn a2, that rook endgame with 4 on 3 on the king side, there does give White some winning chances, especially with two rooks on the board, but I think Black is doing very well to hold that kind of endgame. So
yeah. So Alejandro is going to try to keep the tension as much as possible. Of course, Black still has the option to head into the rook in a you set, and I'll just show a line that kind of highlights what you're saying. If we get moves where eventually the c pawn is traded for the a pawn, like you said, it's not to say White can't win with a 4 on 3. It has happened with some more famous games in history, but most of the time it's a pretty straightforward draw. So,
and I don't like the last move, King G7. I thought Black could play Knight E6, and I wasn't sure where that rook on F6 was going.
Oh,
so
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I don't know if Alejandro saw that either. Maybe there was an idea with E4 followed by E5. I guess the rook is at least protected in that scenario.
Yeah, it definitely was an option, but I think they both kind of overlooked that.
Yeah, I agree. And after King G7, we now see the trade. The rook ending shall commence. And, okay, when you add time into it here, it's certainly not a walk in the park for Quesada, but this does hold some decent drawing chances. So will Becerra hold on against Fedoseyev, or is the Super GM just taking it to him?
12 seconds, and I really don't like his chance to survive this. I mean, with no knight h5 now, or knight f3 check. Knight f3 work? Yeah, knight f3,
Knight f3
gf3.
check looks delicious.
Rook f3. I'm attacking the bishop on f4, the pawn h3. Clearly, white is not in time for any counterattack. So knight h5 or knight h5 just attacks the bishop as well. So both moves look very good. Black's also up a pawn, which I didn't even realize. So yeah, Julio's going down. This is exactly what he didn't want. He didn't want the position to get complicated.
Yep.
His opening was great, but clearly something went wrong for him after that solid-looking opening.
Well, the other match that's moved furthest along at this point, I feel a little tongue-tied today, is the matchup between the Blizzard and the Pawn Grabbers. So let's jump over to where we started covering that match. Of course, that is with now Grandmaster Andrew Tang playing Jennifer Yu, and you seem to be right, partner. Jennifer Yu really is holding her own in this game, and in fact, if anyone is better here, my first thought is white. Although now that I look at it again, the e3 pawn being weak, obviously at some point that could be an issue, whereas the e3 pawn might be a little bit easier to get to than the e6 pawn, with Tang having gotten the bishop to d5, but still looks pretty close to equal either way.
Yeah, to me it looks very level, and you're right that the e3 pawn is slightly easier to get to than the e6 pawn, especially with that bishop. The bishop on d5 is awesome, and if you ever take on d5, e takes d5, okay, that's just closing the pawn structure. And both sides can try to use the A file all they want, but there's nothing going on there. They can swing their rooks back and forth from the F file to the A file. I'm not really seeing much of anything. Queen C3 here, for example. Bishop F4 is always a possibility for white. So I think the position should be a draw with proper play, but of course things can go wrong. Especially look at Jennifer Yu's clock, 2 minutes and 45 seconds and counting down, whereas Tang is 7 minutes.
And for those who are following it, yes, indeed, Fedoseev did go on to win this one, with Becerra down on the clock here. Last position we saw was knight h5 with 11 seconds. Becerra took on c5, giving up the bishop on f4, but failing to the skewer that happened on d3, and Fedoseev officially gets the win there for St. Louis. So they continue to move forward.
We should hop over to Alejandro's game because Quesada only has 11 seconds left, and it should be a draw with best. Well, actually, no, not anymore. I don't know if it should be a draw.
You're right. This is how Pro Chess League. This is
how
Pro Chess League blunders happen.
Danny, look at the move rook b4. Instead of rook b4, he should have went rook f3 and then put his rook on a3 to get the rook behind the pawn.
Absolutely, and he's probably winning that endgame.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you go rook b8, maybe black can just go rook a3 to a2, and now you can't defend your a pawn and win the pawn on c2. So maybe white just can't win that endgame. So I think that was a big mistake. It was a great opportunity for Alejandro to take advantage. And they both have under 30 seconds left once Alejandro finally makes his move. Okay, it's 34 seconds. But yeah,
no, you're right. That was an instructive moment. It's something that you all hear in games, everybody, which is put your rook behind pawns in rook endings, and Alejandro did not find that opportunity under time pressure.
He found it now.
Oh, he did. He's given a second chance, and he's not going to miss his chance.
Look at Quesada's clock, 7 seconds. Push that A pawn. Just go.
The king's not in time. That's going to decide the game. Quesada's running, but he's
winning.
You can't get there fast enough.
It is definitely winning now. You just take on c2.
Has to be. There's no way black can get the pawn on a7 and get his king back in time. Quesada's going for it because without any time on the clock, he doesn't have a choice. But this position
D4,
is...
Oh, king d4 was more precise than king e4. And the reason why was after king d4, the rook can only move by giving a check on d8, and then the king would have went to e5.
Yep.
So it's extra tempo for the king to get over to g5. It's still winning. A move like rook f3. Yep, there it is.
I love those teaching moments by Bobby Hess. Look at this, everybody. The move king to d4. This idea where black is going to check the king and get the king to a8 is still possible and still a good one for black because it frees up the rook. But it would have really changed the endgame dynamic in white's favor with the white king getting to f6 so quickly. So,
what is Alejandro? Why is the king going backwards now? Maybe he's trying to go king e5 to f6, but okay, are gaining some time. But if he just all right, that's better. Put the king on f7, then go rook e3, and then rook to e6. You do have to be careful, though, because if you let that black rook into the third rank, you could lose your f and g pawn. So it's something that...
Yeah, Alejandro is...
f4 was good. Because now when you go rook e3 to e6, you go rook takes g6, g6 protects g3.
Yep, very good. So, yeah, and this is a key thing that you see in king and pawn endings, everybody. Eventually, that outside passer isn't the winner. It's the decoy that keeps your opponent's king away. And a similar sort of theme here in the rook ending. White gives up the a7 pawn just in time, just to go win.
So weird. After rook c7 check, he could have went rook e7, trading the rooks and winning that way. Now he's
creating... Okay, it's still a win, But no, is this a win anymore? I mean,
Yeah,
theoretically.
it's a 7. Yep, there it is.
Okay, the king gets there just in time, and it's over. It's
asked
literally by a single tempo.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we watch Alejandro finish this one because without much time on the clock, still instructive. Now F6 or H6, both are winning pretty easily.
Absolutely. I'm keeping an eye on some of the other games. No one else is in such. Okay, Alejandro won the game. So we should go over to Andrew Tang versus Jennifer Yu. We haven't really looked at the Montclair Soprano matchup in too much detail. It looks like they're, of course, underway. So is the match between Webster and Buenos Aires just got started. But I want to put a Tang's game because Jennifer Yu is down to 30 seconds on the clock with Tang at 6 minutes. So that's going to be her downfall in this one. She's played a good game. She still should be close to holding here. But the problem is once that queen comes to F3, White's not going to be particularly happy. And actually, to protect E3, you have to go make a move like Bishop D2. Then after Queen F3, the black king can even start moving towards the action with King G6 and King H5. So King D2 is probably a better move. Oh, can that work? Can this possibly be a defensive mechanism? I feel like
it almost looks like black has no threats, though. I mean, why can't she just sit tight?
Because the queen's got to go to F3, I feel like. Like put the queen on F3, King F5, right? Now Queen F3 now.
Queen F3 now makes most sense, and I think that the move...
but after... The only thing you have to calculate from black is if Queen F3, Queen takes F3, E takes F3, King D3, King F5, and then Bishop F2. If somehow, some way, White is able to just kind of stall so that if you ever move your king to G4, I go E4.
E4, yeah. Yeah, I was just showing that line.
It doesn't work. That's winning for black, I believe.
It seems like it should be winning. If Queen F3, Queen takes, and Andrew is now, given that he's such a fast player, with a big time advantage on the clock, he's going to use that time and figure it out. But I think eventually after moves like Bishop F2, Bishop G5, maybe black even brings the bishop around to a square that hits G3 immediately. I mean, do I have time for moves like Bishop D8 and Bishop C7 and eventually get King G4 so that the move Bishop takes G3 comes too fast? I just don't think White can hold this. It seems like black will have all the time in the world, and eventually Andrew finds Queen F3 and he agrees with us. I think Tang goes on to win this game.
Absolutely.
Yep. We'll see if he goes for this plan of relocating the bishop, but it seems like a no-brainer because White has nothing to do but time to waste, and there we go. The exact plan that we called for, and Tang is going to win the end game. That almost rhymes completely. Let's move on to the other game because it's also heating up there in the Minnesota Blizzard matchup. That is John Bartholomew in a bit of a pickle here against Awonder Liang. Black is on the attack, and you almost feel like black should be down a piece for the kind of compensation he has on the dark squares, but he doesn't. He does not down a piece. It seems like Awonder's going to get this one somehow.
Oh, yeah. No wonder went 4-0 last week. He's much, much better here. I mean, he's almost practically winning even because what's the material count? Black's up a pawn. White's kingside is not very happy. I just don't even see what White can really do to get some real compensation here. I guess Queen F4, but then I can just swing the rook over to B3. No, this looks really bad from White's point of view. But Danny, if we also go over to Sean Nagel's game.
Nagel.
Nagel's completely winning against Shabalov. So Nagel, who went 4-0 last week and made Pro Chess League history, is now completely winning against Alexander Shabalov, our favorite Shabba Dabba Ding Dong. Is unfortunately for him, the pawn on G6. I mean, it's 2 rooks for a queen. It's 2 rooks and 2 pawns for a queen. Make that 3 pawns once G6 falls. Make that 4 pawns once A6 eventually falls. G3 here actually just wins the game because the queen can no longer protect the bishop. So G3
now, and the reason the queen can't protect the bishop, everybody, is the Queen G5 or Queen H6 fails to rook takes G6, taking the lady off the board. And I think Shabba goes down here. What is going on with Nagel? What are they putting in the water in Minnesota for all of these international masters to be bringing it in the Pro Chess League each week?
I mean, Nagel is just something else. And I didn't pick him on my fantasy team this week because I picked Awonder Liang, and I thought that if I'm picking Awonder will likely beat Sean Nagel. And I can't have a defeat on my team's resume, but Nagel's just the man. He's unstoppable. So let's I guess we can move past it because that should be over.
Well, let's go ahead and open up the boards for St. Louis as a reminder to everybody who's here. If we are ever not following a game that you want us to follow, that is officially a you problem in the sense that you can click the buttons right below the Chess.com TV player, and it will instantly take you into the live chess server following all the games from any team you want. And if you're watching this at Twitch TV/chess, you can just go to chess.com/live and find the games the old-fashioned way. All right, so let's just bring up those games so everyone can choose. We have International Master Eric Rosen taking on Grandmaster Sandro Mareko. We have, this is, of course, the matchup of the Windmills taking on the Krakens. We have Grandmaster Alex Shimanov taking on Germain Delamorte. I'm sorry. I've also been just been given word that the Krakens were officially, it looks like they've been penalized a whole point, Robert, because of a last-minute substitution. We have rules in place, everybody, that requires the teams to inform everyone of who they plan to play, kind of like a disclosure of evidence in a law case, and you can't just change who's going to play at the last second when the other team has possibly prepared and done all kinds of work. So the Krakens are already... Wait, is it the Krakens that are penalized a point? Yes, they're at -1. So you can see the scoreboard there shows them at -1 before the games have even started. And there you go. That's why, because they made a last-minute substitution.
Yep. So that's not good news. And just you got to keep to your roster. You can't just keep changing things. We've seen other teams. Volga was penalized similarly earlier today. So just got to make sure people are free and able to play. So, Danny,
where do we want to go?
I want to go to Mr. Daniel Gurevich versus Tulio Shetty because Tulio Shetty is about to flag, and he's down 2 knights. So I ended up being correct about the game. I think White was doing all right for a while.
Commentator's curse, right as you said that. I tried to go there, and I don't get there. I don't get there in time.
Okay, well, Daniel Gurevich won that game for the Minnesota Blizzard.
Let's check in on the Chessbrahs, the fan favorites, taking on why am I drawing a blank? Yeah, let's check in on the Chessbrahs. Hansen versus Dan Smith is a popular choice there. I'm seeing some requests for that.
And Dan Smith, look at him go. He's playing Eric Hansen. As we noted, 2 celebrities for very different reasons. Hansen, the chess celebrity, Dan Smith, the poker celebrity. And Dan Smith with the white pieces. He took pawn on b7, no fear, and goes to trade the queens on d7. I don't think he should trade the queens on d7 there, Danny. I think he should win queen a6, going for the a5 pawn. And by playing queen d7, he's kind of showing his cards. And that's an unfortunate poker, kind of reference. But he clearly showing, I'm just trying to make a draw here. And will he actually make the draw? I think he's got great chances. Because the point is, once the queens get traded, that knight hops to c4, where it attacks the pawn e5, it attacks the pawn a5, and it also hits the rook when it comes to b2. So a good decision in a way by Dan Smith there. Like I said, I would have preferred queen a6, I think, but queen d7 saying, you know what, Eric Hansen, prove that you can actually beat me here. I may be 2,000 rated, but my position is just as good as yours. So this is a great performance by Dan Smith, no matter how he finishes this game off.
Yeah, I agree. I think that even if you go into that endgame, despite the fork that happens at the end of that line, Black does have a move like rook to a2. But yeah, if it all continues according to plan, at some point maybe White wins c6. We see a move like rook c4 at the end, forking the knight and pawn. So we could end up with a massive trade here that puts the pressure on Eric Hansen to get this win. I agree that Black has something to prove here. Some of the other games going down. What?
Rook d8 is a potential threat, but we can come back to this one because we haven't checked out Amon Hambleton, everyone's favorite former bearded one.
The Chessbrah himself.
Yep, and he's playing White against Alex Lenderman. And Lenderman's position is great. Yeah,
I was going to say, he's White, but he's worse. And this is, given that he's also down significantly on time, I think Amon is in trouble in this game. What's stopping Black from... Okay, playing moves like f5 here seems to make sense, although I guess knight f4 would have been irritating. So instead he's going to use that square for the knight. Very nice, much better. Bringing the knight to e7. As soon as the knight gets to f5, we have problems here with the white king. And moving this knight on e2 would lose the d4 pawn. So what does Lenderman do here? He's in control of the position. He'd really love to get pressure on all these pawns that are on dark squares, given that he has the dark square bishop, right? But Give us a Bobby Hess maneuvering plan for Black that is going to get Black the full point.
And before I talk about the actual plan, let's look at the clock. 53 seconds for Hamilton. Not even just the clock. This is a Lenderman type of position, and I don't really consider it an Amon type of position. It's like, well, you're worse, one, but it's also this end game where it's hard to see what White does. So I would start with the move A6 for Lenderman, and he went Bishop B8 with a similar concept. Bishop B8, he says, I don't want to commit my pawns on the queen side. I'll do that later. But so he's saying, your Knight B5 move could have been annoying at some moment. Instead, my bishop's on B8, Knight B5 has no real threat. Then I can go A6 and even go B5 after that and put my bishop on A7 where it attacks D4. So right now I go F5. There it is by Lenderman. Now the point is, of course, you go F4. And if that move F4 comes in, you're going to shatter White's pawn structure on the king side. And here, look at his clock. His time management's not been good this game. And he's already in really grave danger because King E3, I still go F4 check. And I'll take on F4, put my knight on F5 with check. D4 is falling, H4 is falling. You don't want to give me an outside passed H pawn. So the position is very bad for White, and Amon's thinking, and he doesn't really have time to think. So he's definitely going down in this one.
Well, he might have to try to put the knight on F4 himself just to stop all of that and risk the double pawns. No, he decides he's going to try to bait F4 and have this rook in a position where it might be able to swing to the G file and get some counterplay. And
Lenderman's going to take the pawn F4 with the rook. G takes F4, rook takes F4.
Oh, wow.
Saying, all right, take my rook. I'm going to take with the bishop, take on C1, protect my pawn on D5 with King C6, and then go Knight F5 next move, and you're going to lose a pawn. So, bishop takes F4 checks honestly probably just better, but it's also Rook F4 can be played and is also very good. So
yeah, well, Alex is pausing to take a think on that because I think that he probably knows they're both good, but wants to be as accurate as he can, especially with his opponent under this kind of time pressure. Okay, well. We've looked at Hansen versus Smith. We've looked at Hamilton versus Lenderman, but there are other games going down between the pawn grabbers. Although let's stay right here because I'm not sure that we should go anywhere when Amon just made that move with 1.4 seconds on the clock. The time control, everybody, is 15 minutes plus a 2-second increment. So you got to move quickly. Even though that increment changes things, it certainly makes the chess matter because you always have time to finish the job. It still makes playing positions like this really, really difficult because 2 seconds is not a lot of time that you get back on every move. This is just, like you said, it's a Lenderman position here. And here comes Knight F5. Gonna grab the D4 pawn with check.
Yep.
He does it, yeah.
Did the rook grab a pawn H4, Danny? It protects E4, which allows you to move this knight and then play D4 yourself. So that rook is perfectly placed. So just Knight F3 check here looks good.
Yeah, Knight F3 followed by rushing the pawn to D4, although, if Knight F3, King E2, you have to be a little careful because then there might be a tactic like Knight takes E4 and the knight is hanging, but...
Can I go rook H1 there and try to go rook E1 checkmate?
Oh, you would do that, you sly little dog. You sly dog. Look at that. Rook's coming to E1 with mate. But no. He goes rook H2. That was a weird decision now because Alex
rook F2.
What?
Rook F2, King E3,
and then King E5.
Rook F3 check.
Oh yeah, just rook F3 check. I bet Amon missed that. Yeah, rook F3 would have been mate, everybody. If King E3, rook F3, King takes D4, rook D3 is lights out.
Amon made that with 0.9 seconds left, that last move.
Yeah. Well, you remember last week there were some moves made that were literally, they went from 0 to 2 seconds. So sometimes weird things happen. Okay, well now Black just has to decide whether he wants to play Knight F3 check, get the pawns going immediately, or if he, I thought maybe Knight C2 going after A3 was also possible, but yeah, this looks like the most straightforward way to play. Rook D2, King over, now just start rushing the pawns, probably E3.
Yeah, that's all she wrote.
Yeah, okay. Well, the next game we're going to is the one between Jordan Van Foreest and Sergey Ehrenberg, the only Grandmaster versus Grandmaster matchup in this round between...
It depends if you consider Amon Hamilton a Grandmaster.
Oh, that's right, of course. Grandmaster Amon Hamilton is no longer the bearded one, although his title has not been officially approved by FIDE yet, which is why we don't have it updated on our site before the Chessbrahs fans go crazy on Twitch. Just calm down. So other than this one... which we're still covering because I guess we don't want to miss the end. But hey, let's move on because this one here is actually really heating up without a lot of time on the board. Jordan Van Forest is just going to go to Grindtown now on Ehrenberg. Here he's got 2 pieces for the rook, and the rook doesn't have a lot to show for it. This is going to be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Ehrenberg is totally lost here. Black can just expand on the queen side with moves like c5, b5, etc. The bishop on d4 is well placed. The knight eventually can find stuff on d4. And white doesn't even have a pawn to show for the 2 pieces, right?
Okay, so I was wrong. Let's go back to Amon's game. All right, well, this one is also just over now, I guess. Okay, so what's it going to come down to then? Because if Van Forest wins against Sergei Ehrenberg, which he's going to in the 2 pieces for the rook, and Lenderman just beat him on Hamilton, that means the match is going to remain in a 1-1 deadlock. So we have to talk.
Still going against Eric Hansen.
Dan Smith.
I mean, just crazy, right?
Dan Smith. Look at that poker guy. Well, obviously we knew he had some calculation talent. I mean,
something to keep in mind, Danny, and something that's very instructive with this particular position. Look at that H-pawn.
Yeah.
Now look at the square that a queen's on, the H1 square, right? So what white needs to accomplish is now E4 should just be winning on the spot. But if the larger point that I was trying to make was if the rooks get traded, all white needs to do is make sure that the knight sacrifices itself and you can lose all your pawns as long as black is left with just the H-pawn.
Yep.
Because the bishop and a lone H-pawn, a bishop and dark square and the lone H-pawn cannot make a queen. So, here E4 should just win for Hansen, but a much tougher game than he bargained for. Okay, he did not play E4. So now you can take on H5 and maybe play the move. Where can you go? Your position's still tough. Knight E3 might be forced. Because now E4 is just deadly. Your rook's trapped. And rook takes c3 is check after e4. Yeah, king g3 was a very bad. They're both missing e4.
I have no idea.
Like, they're both just absolutely missing the move e4. It's like they don't want to play. I mean, black is still completely winning because e4 is happening next move finally. c3 falls. Now f4 check.
Now he's just going to take c3. Actually, he could even probably take e3 first.
f4.
Oh, f4 wins pieces. Okay. Well, Dan held his own there. The poker player said that Shodi wasn't going to be an easy put away for Grandmaster Eric Hansen, but be put away he will, as Yoda would say. One interesting note about the matchups today is heading into today, there were several undefeated teams still, but the matchup between Pittsburgh and the Blizzard, which is currently 3.5-1/2 in favor of the Blizzard, is the matchup of the only 2 undefeated teams remaining. Both those teams at 2-0 have their perfect records on the line this week. So fun for the fans to keep an eye on that as we follow all the games today. Well, the next round of games by the strongest players in the field as far as the Atlantic Division goes are underway. Fabiano Caruana is taking on Julia Becerra now. Grandmaster Fedoseev is taking on, as I bring up that game, Grandmaster Fedoseev is taking on
no one because he beat Nicholas Rosenthal and
so fast. He beat Nicholas Rosenthal faster than we could get to the game.
He sacrificed his queen for checkmate at the end of this game. So that was a nice play by Fedoseev. Rosenthal got back rank mated essentially. So
at least we got to see the final position there between Hansen and Smith if we missed it, and others. For those who are still keeping track at home, we got to give everybody scorebooks they can use at home. Alexander Lenderman did go on to beat Amon Hamilton as we predicted that he would. So, all right, sticking with the game of the top boards between St. Louis and Miami. What do we have here? We have a better position for Fabiano Caruana, despite black having the bishop pair. This c4 pawn is weak, and although it's not so simple, I guess if the queens are traded, the b file on b2 and the long diagonal here with the bishop on g7 hitting c3 make this position not that simple here.
Yeah, queen a5 was a good move. You don't really want to trade queens, and you're just down a pawn. And after a3, now black can play bishop a4 and put a rook on b8. And white's queen side is not in the best way right now. So bishop a4 looks like to be a good move. It's a good starting point. And after bishop a4, Danny, you can't play bishop takes c4 because then rook to d8 actually picks up a full rook on d1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Becerra is doing very well right now. And if a rook c1 here, now rook a b8, right? Just go for the b2 pawn.
Yeah, rook a to b8 is key, because I was thinking in lines like this, white would still find a way to trade queens, moves like queen to b4, and then this c-pawn would prove to be the biggest weakness on the board. But you're right. If black can play rook b8 here...
Actually, rook d8 is even better, right? Rook d8 to d2. You hit b2 with the tempo.
But then I can play queen b4. If rook d8, queen b4, when I trade, I win the c4 pawn at the end.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Though I'm not sure I'm very worried about it, but yeah, I'd rather not give it away if I don't have to.
No, but I think your move rook to b8 just makes a ton of sense, because you hit the b2 pawn with tempi, and rook to d8 is coming. Okay, well, Becerra agrees with you. He's going rook d8.
I think he was probably worried about some kind of bishop takes c4, knight takes f7 stuff, where like you just blast open that diagonal and you take all black's pawns.
But somehow I feel this endgame transition is not the best black could have had in that middle game, because the c4 pawn is going to fall. And so the question is, can you get a rook on c8 and put pressure on c3 with your rook on c8 and the bishop on g7 before white can use it as a passed pawn? Because I'm looking at lines like bishop c4, rook b2, and then like bishop a6, where I guards c8, and I can start pushing the c pawn here in a minute. And we might have a girl there on the c-file. So what do you think? I mean, I feel like white is transitioning into an endgame where he has the better hand, the upper hand.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And I think between bishop takes c4 and eventually putting the bishop on a6, like you said, and also a move like right now, bishop f3, and trying to kick the rook off the a8 square, so you can go rook a1 takes a7. Both options look very tempting for white. And yeah, Fabiano is definitely, and look at the clock advantage as well, right? He's got double time of his opponent.
Well, sometimes the last match that gets started in the day has the danger of being overlooked. So let's not do that today. I'm going to go over to the game between Rosen and Grandmaster Mareko, because here we're about to see an ending. We're about to see an end with Rosen having only 8 seconds left on the clock, and I think just being lost in this king and pawn ending. So let's catch this moment, maybe instructive for the fans.
Yeah, and Rosen I actually picked for my fantasy team. He's letting me down right now in this game. So.
Classic Rosen. Just kidding, Eric.
He's a great photographer, by the way. Not only is he
great photographer, yeah. And also, fun fact about Eric Rosen, he's a great tennis player. Table tennis player.
Oh, I did not know
He's
that.
really good, yeah. And I'm not that bad. I'd like to think I'm pretty good, but he's really good. So, fun fact, there you go. Fact of the day, Eric Rosen is going to lose king and pawn endings, but he's pretty good at table tennis. So, what are some of the other games going on in the matchup between the Windmills and the Krakens?
We have Mario Villanueva, that is username MMM Marito versus Blue Wizard. That's Grandmaster Dennis Boros. And Mr. Villanueva's king is not very happy right now. Actually, neither king is particularly happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's got the worst king? Button, who's got the button? I don't know.
You got piece up, right?
Yeah, but H1 is hanging. I think.
Oh, black is up a piece, and the H1 rook is hanging.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, black has got to be winning here.
But it's funny because I did not count pieces. I was like, well, both kings are crazy. Like, who's better? Then I did a quick count. I was like, well, there's an extra minor piece in the board, so that's going to help the cause. It looks over.
Looks like this one is going to be over in the favor of Mr. Boros, which is going to have us heading toward a Windmills victory. Remember, everybody, if you're just joining us, the Windmills were actually spotted a game to start this match because the Buenos Aires Krakens made a last-minute substitution. So shout out to everybody in the chat, Smarter Chess, Chess Bay, Anton Squared Me, the one and only Mr. Chess GIF himself. Everybody who's been with us the whole time, a lot of usernames, can't shout out to everybody, but we are trying to read your comments. Electric Colony 1, Mate in the Chess TV chat. Anyway, thanks everybody who's here supporting chess. Thanks for watching the Pro Chess League Week 3. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. All right, where to go, Robert?
Let's see. There are lots of options. More matches have gotten into their second round, right? We have Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez with the black pieces against Eduardo Iturrizaga. And Mr. Ramirez is in busted territory.
Yeah,
he looks
busted shape.
Is he down a piece? Yeah, he's down a piece. I'm not counting pieces. I'm just looking at position.
I was gonna say, are you're not so materialistic today? That's good for you.
Know what's happening. I mean, it is probably good for me, but I'm looking at I'm like, okay, black's king's in danger, and white's really isn't. And then I'm like, wait a second, white's also up a piece.
Right. You're like, no. You're like, I like white just because black's king is in danger, and he happens to be up a piece. So, yeah. Well, I don't know what happened in this one. We can back up on the analysis board here because I'm curious as we go through the game. How did Alejandro go so wrong so fast? Everybody, if you watch the analysis board, looks like we're going to find out. He went all in with this ultra-aggressive, almost bullet-style approach for a checkmate attack on the king's side and got a taste of his own medicine. His bishop almost got trapped with the move g4. But where did the piece fall? Knight to d5, e6. Okay, interesting. Bishop to d2. And after knight c6, bishop c3.
Ooh, queen d4 there.
Yeah, the big problem here is that black just gets a little too aggressive, forgetting that his rook on h8 is undefended. Really, the only move in the position was to somehow try to find a way to defend the d6 pawn back on move 20. Once he committed knight c to e5 and f4 came in, he probably didn't want to go back anyway because queen takes d6 is borderline lights out by itself. But after the move knight takes c4, he just lost a piece. And Alejandro Ramirez is going down against Grandmaster Iturrizaga. Okay. So with they need that win if you are rooting for the Miami champions, right? Because they fell behind to start this one, 3-1. They lost in the first round, and Fedoseev already beating Nicholas Rosenthal on board 4. So my fantasy team not looking very good this week, FYI.
It's okay.
Rosenthal has let me down. All right, but this is going to be a big one here. Let's go back to let's go to the other game that we haven't looked at from the match that we started with first. The match going on here with the players from St. Louis as I try to find that game.
I don't even know where
it's our board 4. It's our board 4.
Oh, it's Forrest Chen. How did Forrest Chen do? Does anyone know how Forrest Chen did?
Forrest, run, Forrest. Is he named after Forrest? Gotta be. There's not many Forrests.
He's young enough to be named after Forrest.
Yeah, I bet he is. One of those.
I found his game.
Where is it?
He's playing Tennis Master.
Oh, my favorite.
And Forrest Chen with the black pieces is clearly stemmed from a Caro-Kann. Black is temporarily up a pawn, but that pawn on c4 is going to fall at any moment. Knight d4 here attacks the bishop on f5 and the knight on c6. It's one of those, looks like an advanced variation where black did an early c5 and now is coming to regret it.
Yeah.
Although knight d4, maybe you can take on c3 and then play bishop e4 and try to keep the c6 square defended for now.
Wait, you take on c3.
Sorry, knight d4, take knight takes c3.
Okay, I thought you said knight takes e3. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
And then bishop e4.
Yeah.
My mistake. So then you can try to defend c6, but black is down so many tempi, right? You haven't developed the bishop on f8. Your king is not castled and stuck in the center. So, I mean, look at White's development. Every piece is developed. It does not look like it's a good position for Mr. Chen. And look at his clock situation. Okay, he's kept in the game for pretty long time here. I'm confused with both players spending so much time to get here because this doesn't seem too out of the ordinary. But maybe think I'm familiar with something that I'm not.
Well, Forrest Chen was the only loss St. Louis suffered in the first round. They haven't lost the game by Alejandro Ramirez yet, but they're on their way to doing it. So Miami needs to strike back this round. This is a game that Quesada's got to get, and he does indeed go forward with your move, knight to d4. I expect knight takes c3 and bishop e4 to be played. Okay, well, a lot of other games are still rolling along here, and who knows where to go. Andrew Tang did eventually find a way to take down the young Miss Jennifer Yu. So that happened. FYI, that happened.
And now he's playing against Attilio Shetty.
Okay. And where should we go with this beautiful part of the program? I think we should go to
so many interesting games.
Let's go to the game there, I think, between Tang and Shetty.
Okay. So
Tang Shetty. That sounded like a spaghetti sauce. Tang Shetty.
That actually kind of does.
Kind of like ragu. Like, I put Tang Shetty on my noodles.
Well, that's good. And here, I don't even know how to respond to that.
Yeah, you don't need to. Let's just move forward. Yep.
He's up a pawn, right? He's got the extra pawn on c5 over there on the queen side, but black is way ahead in development. Like, it's not even close.
Black wants f5 and f4. Dirty girl.
F5, F4 will be tempting. At some point, D4 might be tempting. Here, do I want to go F6? I want to just take on G3.
Yeah, the E5 pawn was not really hanging on the last move, everybody, because if Tang tried to take C6, black would take on G3 intermezzo and only then recapture on C6. But now with the knight on F3, it's possible Tang might go pawn gobbling, go greedy Guillermo on this and try to go get this pawn on E5. So now that would be the one thing holding me back if I'm Shetty from just playing F5 and running with Freddie with reckless abandonment. Maybe black needs to play a more solid approach like F6, kind of hold the center. Or you could take on G3.
Exactly. The two main options, play F6 and just keep this bishop on G3 saying that's a bad piece. My knight H5 can take it at any moment. I would think I'd slightly prefer that. Alternatively, you could open the position up by playing knight takes G3, H takes G3, decide, okay, I'm going to take, and then he plays knight G3. You could take on B4, and after C takes B4, then put your bishop on F6. So your bishop's on the diagonal facing the queen. The reason I don't tend to like decisions like that is because you can never go E4 from black's perspective because then the knight lands itself on D4, and white's happy. But you can go D4 for black and just start trying to create a passed pawn and mix up the position. But still, after a move like D4, I don't see the huge benefit for black. So I would have preferred to go F6 instead of taking on G3. But I also understand why Shetty did what he did.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Now he's going E4. I feel like this can't be right. Is he relying on getting knight to E5? I guess. I mean, he's going for some sort of idea that he gets long-term positional bindage on the light squares. But two moves come to mind here. One, bishop takes C6 first. And I wonder if I can play that way. I mean, if bishop takes C6 if you take F3, and I just back up the bishop and you take G2. I guess maybe, okay. No, I guess I don't want that. Okay, my bad. But if I play knight D4 anyway, I don't need to take C6. I mean, are you really getting compensation on the light squares that was worth sacrificing that D4 square?
Let's see. If you had knight D4, I'd play...
You play knight E5, right?
I was wondering if I take on B4 first or I play knight E5. I guess you have to... Okay, I don't know if I can go A takes B4 first. That's the only thing I'm thinking about is if I take on B4, I try to open up that diagonal. I'm not really sure. I feel like bishop C6 can't be played. I feel confident about. Bishop takes C6. I feel like that. Then E takes F3, and there's going to be a pawn on G2, eventually supported by a bishop on H3, and that doesn't.
That's not going to happen anyway because he played knight D4.
Oh, he did play knight D4. Okay, so he's there. So can you take on D4 even?
It just feels like White's getting away with what they want. They're holding on to the C5 pawn. The center's closed, which keeps the bishop on E7 out of the game. And wow, but he's going for it. I really don't agree with Black's direction here. I feel like it made a lot more sense to open up the position dynamically, as you suggested, or even play F6 and leave the tension in the position as it was. I feel like this is...
I think he's going to try to take on B4, right?
And then you want B6. That's your idea.
But I agree with you, Danny. That pawn C5 is so easy to defend by knight B3.
Yeah.
And so you're going to keep that passed pawn there, eventually go A4, even put a rook on C1, and then knight on B3 can even hop to D4 at the right moment. So I'm totally with you. I think this is a really bad decision by Shetty, and Tang is going to be the beneficiary of this mistake.
Well, let's move on to the other games going down between the Blizzard and the... Sorry, what?
Nagel's playing Awonder Liang, and the game is crazy.
Let's do it. Nagel versus Liang.
I think Nagel's winning.
What is the deal with Sean Nagel? Early picks for Pro Chess League MVP, am I right?
I mean, that guy is phenomenal.
Well, he's under the attack. The heat is being brought in, if that's a thing. I think that you can get served, and I think heat can be brought into you. I think those are two things the kids talk about. You can get served and have heat brought in.
So right now, at this very particular moment, White's up a full piece. Down a piece, right?
Yep, or doodle scoodle.
For one pawn. So king takes D6, White is up
two minors. No, Black is up 2 minors. Yours, Black.
Sorry, I misspoke. You're right. Black is up 2 minors. So king takes D6, Rook takes f6 check is the only move. Otherwise, what are you doing with all your sacrifices? I take on f6.
You get queen f4 check.
King d. King somewhere 7. King c6.
I mean, you're up a rook. Can I just play king c6 and give you the knight with check and then run to b7? Maybe.
Very possible. Very possible.
But maybe not. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy lines here where white has rook e7 coming and moves like c4. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you that 2 minor pieces is a lot. So our first evaluation of the position has to be what went wrong here for Awonder Liang. But the more I look at this position, the more dangerous it seems for black.
Yeah, I sort of just, I think I spoke too strongly, like, oh, it's winning. But yeah, I mean, the problem is I thought the king could run from d6 to c6 to b7 to a6. But now I'm starting to realize that, kind of the king over there is pretty awkward. And even if you do run that far, white should have compensation.
There's moves like c4 in that position. If you go to the position after queen takes f6, king b7, c4, where do you put your queen? If you take with the knight, I have rook e7 check. If you move queen... I was tricking you. I forgot about en passant. Okay, I forgot about en passant. Yeah. Okay, so c4 seems nice, but doesn't quite work.
There must be some like rook e5 stuff because the black queen is misplaced.
Yeah, if rook e5, queen to c6, then you can take f7, and on king a6, you suddenly have like diagonal ideas, like rook c5 and bishop c4, or rook e6 and bishop c4. Something seems super dangerous here.
Queen c6, I think I have rook e7 check as well, right? Removing your king from its protection.
Oh, yeah, then you just win the queen, yeah. Yeah, so this looks...
Ooh, this is maybe I totally just misevaluated the position. Again, I don't have any sort of engine support on it. I'm just going.
Yeah, well, the only thing that we or the fans would have would be this evaluation bar, but without variations or lines, it's honestly hard to trust it anyway because it needs time to calculate, and usually Bobby Hess's opinion is more accurate, at least within the first few seconds. So,
definitely, and I don't even look at the bar because it's just distraction. So maybe king d7 instead of going to king c6. My first thing was saying, okay, if I go king d7, queen takes f6, right? Then can I just put a rook on e8? Do I have time to do that? Like rook a to e8, and my queen protects the e8 square from b5. So even if you take on f7, I can start running my king away or trying to run my king away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just played a line like that, like queen takes f7, king d8, and it seems like black is defending. I mean, what's really going to tell the tale here? Oh, he goes for king c6. I think this was the wrong decision. I think he maybe should have gone your way with king d7 and rook e8, but time pressure also makes these positions harder to defend than they may be, right? In a long game, you're certainly going to be able to find the most accurate defensive moves, and if it was winning, it was winning, but if it's not, you're going to defend it. Right. Here, I'm not sure we can rely that Nagel's going to find all the most accurate defensive moves with only 4 minutes.
Yeah, this is not looking promising anymore.
It's an exciting game here, though.
No, I mean, and Nagel just mixing it up every moment he can. And Awonder Liang, both these players went 4-0 last week. Yep. Both these teams 2-0. They're the only undefeated teams remaining because all the earlier undefeated teams.
And look how quickly Awonder Liang finds the move rook e5. That was something that you and I found. I think you said it, but we found it sort of together after analyzing the position for 3 minutes. And he finds this move rook e5. Maybe he had already calculated it. Obviously, Nagel took a long time before capturing on d6. So likely he was calculating the same variations we were analyzing. But it looks like black's just busted now. I mean, amazingly, the queen has no squares.
Maybe you're right, though. Maybe your queen c6 idea was okay. And after rook e7, which I thought was just picking up the queen, there's knight d7.
Ah, okay.
But queen takes f7, and maybe just has to give material back. So if that queen does take on f7, then like a move like rook f8, because the rook and queen on the 7th rank looks very scary.
Yeah, you hope so.
Because actually black can turn the attacking chances around.
If he can swing in, yeah, rook f1 and a4 comes in, and suddenly white might be mated on the a file. Exactly. Yeah, so this game is not over at all, but it's certainly an exciting one. This might be the most back and forth one we've seen all day here, with Awonder down a whole rook on in the live position, but black is really feeling the pressure. Okay, well, there's a lot of other games going on, a lot of games under time pressure. We see the standings there, everybody below the analysis board, if you're just joining us. Welcome to the Pro Chess League, the only match that's turning into a a runaway train right now is the one between the Blizzard and the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers, and the Blizzard they can't be stopped, at least not right now.
Yeah, 4.5 to half. That's not a good look for
the Pawn Grabbers. And where's our boy Shaba? Shaba Daba Ding Dong, right? I mean, he lost to Nagel.
We got to get there. He's playing John Bartholomew.
There it is. Let's do it. We'll keep our eye on this one here. I got to see how this one finishes, but let's go check on Shaba and Finn's. It
was a Scandi.
Scandi?
Yep.
Scandi. I'll tell you what's scandalous playing the Scandi.
I mean, for sure. So he played the Scandinavian and
he played the Scandinavian, and Shaba played a terrible line. I mean, I lose to the Scandinavian for a living, but seriously, even I know this is a terrible line with G3. This is not White's best line. And, of course, you can't surprise Bartholomew. I mean, he knows every best move in the Scandinavian. And
there's a best move in the Scandinavian?
Well, there's a non-losing move.
Okay, got it.
Okay, look at this nice idea with E5. I actually really like that, cementing the knight on C4. And then he uses the queenside counterplay to open things up. Black is no worse in the current position, I'll tell you that. And with my eyes set on this H4 pawn falling and the B4 pawn still being weak, I can't be real proud of my boy Shaba's performance today. After games last week that just had us on the edge of our seat the whole time, Shaba's letting us down.
Yeah, for real. I don't know what he's doing because he had the white pieces, and he's got a terrible position. Not what you want against anybody, let alone one of the world's greatest Scandinavian theoreticians in John Bartholomew. That's pretty awful. Let's see. Did that other game that's still going on between Awonder Liang and Sean Nagel? I'm looking for potential upset alerts, and Dan Smith with the black pieces against Jordan Van Forest.
Oh.
So we have Forrest Chen, and we have a Van Forest. And right now, Dan Smith with the black pieces, I don't think he's any worse here. In fact, I think, if anything, he's better. And look at this.
And plus, this is headed to the endgame. This isn't one that he's gonna misplay. Wow. I mean, with his experience.
Wow, what's going on here? So King C6 to D5 is Black's obvious intention, right? Just go for that pawn E5.
How is Jordan? Okay, the only move here has to be G4.
Right.
If there's some way to get G4 in, everybody, with the idea being that if Black takes, King G3, okay, just a straightforward line might be like King C6, King takes G4, King D5, King F4, and somehow the zugzwang timing actually doesn't work for White because Black plays B5 at the end of a line like that, and White's going to have to move first.
And I guess the question is, do you have to King F4, can you King G5 and go for the H pawn?
Well, he plays G4, which was obviously, even without calculating it all, King and pawn ending just experience tells us G4 is going to be the only way that White can justify this endgame. You got to get the king to F4 in a hurry. But
wow, this is really a race, right? So King C6.
Take G4 first, yeah.
That's what I meant. Take G4.
Take G4, King G3, King C6.
King takes G4.
I don't think it's a race at all. I think Black is just winning.
Well, King takes G4, King D5, King G5.
Okay.
Can you go for the pawn?
You can, but don't I come around to H2? King F5, King takes H7, King G4.
You don't go to H2, but you take on the E3 pawn.
Well, if you go to E3, then H4.
Then I go back. Yeah.
I think you go to H3, King F6, you take, and then I guess the issue is White can play King E5. But if you take E4, I get the move King F2 in time.
Right.
And if you take E6, the move before, King G3, look at this, King E5, King F3, King D4, Black wins with B5. At the end of the line, Black puts White in zugzwang with the king dance.
This is kind of insanity.
Dude,
it's like,
you're going to need to shake your Rabunkadunk at the end of this game. Because I just saw that king upon ending. Dan Smith is winning here.
Dan Smith is awesome. Wait, okay, so let's see. He did it. King C6. So you got to take on G4. King D5 here.
No, this whole line is forced, and I think King to D5. We're going to see that exact line we just highlighted because it's straightforward.
Because King F4 is bad because of H6, right? That's the move that you're going to play, or is it not? Or is King C4 maybe? Just bring the king over the queen side. Yeah, King C4, right? So King F4 loses to King C4. the black king gets over to b3 and takes over the queen, all the queenside pawns, and then black queens. Because the e pawns are so unimportant. They're just look at those pawns, by the way. How have we not mentioned that?
Yeah.
Like
how did this happen, kind of thing, right? Like, what went wrong here? Yeah, no, this looks pretty straightforward for black now. But this is instructive, everybody. I mean, the reason why these are hard to calculate is because, one, I mean, like, with less pieces on the board, the illusion is there's less to look at. It means that calculating deeper is not only possible, but usually a necessity, because there are less options, and so there are less areas to less room for error. And so, but this instructive idea where what you do is you calculate when black's king is here and white's king is here, whose move is it? Because whoever has to move loses, because they have to move away from protecting their own pawn. And the issue is that black has extra tempi, because black's pawns are less further advanced, and so at the end of a lot of those variations, black is winning because he can make a move that puts white in zugzwang, and white will run out of tempi moves. So again, maybe that's a little complex for our more beginner users, but when you calculate these endgames, zugzwang is really the ultimate theme. Who's going to have to move when they don't want to? And those are the things you're trying to calculate ahead about with the king pawn endings. Okay, we just looked at this line. King g5, king takes e5. And unless there's a move I'm missing, like, is h4 a move? But by the way, if h4, you know what move we have? h5. King takes and king f5. And then, oh, no. That doesn't work. King h6, king g4, h5. Okay, that would have been too fancy. Okay, but it doesn't matter. White's going straight forward for king h6, and this is going to be the upset of the round here.
If you go king f5, like we were talking about, can white start with h3 there?
Ooh.
Just trying to keep that king out for the time being. So I think king d5. My idea, Danny, before was I'm going to go for your e3 pawn. You're going to get the h pawn. We're both going to queen. But I think that black's up a pawn at the end of the queening situation with the e6 pawn. So I don't, I was trying to do a mental count because it's, but we should go over it on the board, right? Like, if
well, we could calculate it, but
what's going on,
If king f5, h3, let's say I play e5 and call your bluff, and you play king takes h7, king g5, king g7, king h4, king f6, I take, you take. Okay, at the end of that line, you just win because of the tempo you saved. Yeah, that would hurt. So king f5, h3 is the idea. Interesting. And so you wanted king d5, king h7, king c4. Then we're going to get these lines where both sides are going to queen.
It's why it's important that...
Oh, no, Dan just played king f5, and maybe he missed it.
So h3 now. And what can he do? Oh, maybe e5 is actually a bad move, Danny, from black.
Yeah, because
it allows the king to go and capture an e5 and then attack e4.
Yep.
But the pawn on e6, the pawns are farther apart. So they move b5 for black here, or something like that on the queen side. Yeah, b5.
b5, saying, okay, king h7, king g5.
And then
king g7, king h4, king f6, king takes.
And then you have to take on either king e5. If you take on e6, you lose.
Yeah. We've already seen that. If you take e6, everybody, you lose at the end of the king dance, because once we get the king dance, black has a6 and white's in zugzwang. Has to move and lose. Oh, what is Dan doing? He played king f6.
What?
But if he goes for e4.
Same idea, right? So but a4 now, right? Shouldn't white play on the queen side to gain a tempo? b5, one of these moves? I think black's going to run out of useful tempi. Yeah, b5
was played. I don't like king f6 at all. I think he should have locked up the pawns on the queen side with b5.
Can you go... Yeah, this is a really complex ending. And so...
Yeah, this is the kind of king pawn ending that gives me anxiety. I don't know if you've noticed my breathing is quickened.
John Bartholomew lost his game. He got checkmated by Shaba despite being completely won earlier in the game. So that's upsetting.
Well, it's huge for Pittsburgh. They needed a big victory. But wow. Okay. And wait a second. Nagel went on to lose. Nagel is no longer undefeated.
Nagel also lost? Oh, he lost to Awonder. So that's two big wins for Pittsburgh there.
Yeah, we got to see the end of this attack here, because what happened in this game? The checkmate you see on the main board. Obviously, we left the position after queen to c6. Awonder took on f7, and on king b8, rook e6, he just worked his way up the board to a mating net on the 7th rank, Robert, and just crushed Nagel. I mean, here he was choosing between mate or win the queen, and he chose mate. I mean, naturally. So, okay. Well, I think we've been so fascinated by this king and pawn ending that we weren't paying attention to some of the more exciting moments. Here we have the game between, as we see the main checkmate on the board there, everybody. How did this one go wrong? It looks like Bartholomew let the thread slip away. Wow, really surprisingly, because he wins a pawn on c3 and feels like he's just transitioning into an endgame where he should be fine. But, this is a really interesting opposite-colored bishop position or game or instructive moment, Robert, because despite being down a pawn, when you look at the position like after move 37, queen d7, you could sort of see the potential dangers of black's position, right? Because you have this light squared bishop and the queen on d7, hitting the square f7 potentially is an issue. You've got this other knight on e3 that might wiggle its way into the attack. So I'm not super surprised given what I already know at the end of this game that Shaba was able to kind of come up with an attack, make something out of nothing here. And also, if we look at the time on the clock, looks like Finn's was down on time for a long time. And look at this. Shaba's pieces just come to life. Knight d6, knight takes f7, and he goes on to get a really nice mate. So, I mean, okay, I agree that's a huge loss for Minnesota, but that was a game that kind of swung surprisingly in White's favor.
Yeah, that was a crazy, hectic game that Shaba, found in the critical moments. He found the right tactics, and Bartholomew down the clock couldn't fight back. So, should we go to Eric Hansen versus Ehrenberg? Because Eric Hansen has 20 seconds left.
Let's do it.
He's playing White Sergei Ehrenberg, and we have another ending. Except right here, Black is up a pawn. So Ehrenberg is up a pawn against Eric Hansen. He's also up 5 minutes in the clock. And if you don't convert this for Montclair, then that might be a problem later down in the match. Because right now, I think Montclair's up 3-2, and so you really want all the points you can get in the early going, before people get tired. You're in your 4th game, and of course, anything can happen when evenly matched players are facing off. So right here for Black, I don't want to go. I want to go g5, but I don't want to go g5 because it allows knight h5 check, and I'm a little bit worried of my king. A move like b6, maybe to go c5 and take with a pawn on c5 is a possibility. Or once you go c5, you can try to trade queens in that long diagonal. Maybe king h6 is possible, but then queen h. Oh, I just tried to cheat. Danny, I was trying to say king h6, queen h1 check, but there's a king on f3 block.
You tried to pull an alpha zero there, huh?
Yeah. And now...
Okay, but Hansen is, he only has 20 seconds, and he's down a pawn, but the trickiness of this position with the open king for Black on g7, I don't know. That's my point. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like having 20 seconds left, but at the same time, the king is very open, and I've seen Eric Hansen beat Hikaru Nakamura in some bullet games. And if you can beat Hikaru Nakamura once in a bullet game, I trust you having 20 seconds left in your clock when the position looks like this. So, better for Black, but very, very difficult to convert this. And who else is interesting here? Dan Smith lost that game, so that's unfortunate for him. He made the wrong king move.
Yeah, but we got to come back to that position, though, because how did that... What happened here? Was it king f6 like we talked about, right?
King f5 was the wrong move. He's showing king d5. But maybe it still was okay after king f5 if you went b5.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think the real critical moment was here, where instead of king f6, he had the move b5.
Wow, and this is such an instructive endgame. How does one finish? This
is like going to end up in some book somewhere in regards to the possibilities of where this could have gone right or wrong for both sides. But again, what you can learn from this, fans, regardless of whether Robert and I are right now, and maybe one of you takes this position home with an engine and figures out exactly who was winning and why. You can tell by how grandmasters calculate the approach to this position. We're both constantly keeping our eye on this sort of goal position where we know that the dynamics of the king dance, who's going to be put in zugzwang, as well as the race of the h-pawn and the potential run of the e-pawn. So you sort of recognize the goals of where you want your pieces, and you use your previous experiences and your pattern recognition to try to force the game down those roads. And that's kind of why we were pushing Dan Smith to play b5, to force the position down a road where black's king was somehow going to be more active than white's king when it came to getting to the rest of these pawns. And whether we're totally right or not, you can learn from how these positions are calculated, and you can learn that king and pawn endings, much like the ocean, you should never turn your back on them because they be dangerous, dog.
Yep.
Sorry, where are we going? I mean, I don't even know. This was really instructive. I wish we had more time to just sit here and get the answer to this as chess players. But we're entertainers first, Robert. Chess players second. So where are we going?
The game between Lenderman and Dr. Usedek has both players under a minute and a half, and Lenderman with the white pieces is probably worse because that bishop on h2, Danny, you hate to see that. Look at black's piece placement. The bishop on d6 is strong. The knight on b5 is particularly good. It holds the c7 square down. It helps the blockade of the d-pawn. And so even material, white's pawn structure is worse. The pawn d5 is more of a liability than an asset.
Look at this move g5. I like it. He's just saying, no soup for you on f4. I'm not going to let you open up the position with a move like f4 and try to create counterplay.
What about bishop b7 here, Danny? Kick that knight off b6 so you can take d5. I want bishop b8.
Bishop b8, interesting. I wonder why not just bishop c7 as well. If you threaten the knight on b6, you've got the d5 pawn falling, and yowzers. Wow, still, look at everybody. Maxime Vacher-Lagrave just came in, and he's brought me a cup of coffee. Hi, Maxime. Hi. Hi, buddy. Thanks. So apparently you're not mad at me for saying Caruana was a strong player. I appreciate it. Maxime just brought me some coffee, everybody. Can we get a round of applause for Maxime? Okay, thank you, everybody.
I take it you put our cameras back on because I don't know if anyone else can see you besides you.
Oh, that's right. The cameras weren't on. Hilarious. Well, Maxime Vacher-Lagrave was here, brought me a cup of coffee, and now he's walked out. But you saw it. You were watching it on camera. Oh, that was hilarious.
Nobody except for me saw that. So everyone's like, what is Danny talking about? Is he all right?
A clippable moment of Danny's idiocy. Okay, but what's happened here? I'm just happy MVL showed up and brought me a cup of coffee.
Well, these are the last two games of this particular round for this match between Montclair and Montreal. And so Ehrenberg has pushed his pawn down to a3, which is nice for the Sopranos. His king might get in some danger. Not danger in terms of losing, but danger in terms of lots of checks. I'm like kind of toggling between both of these games. They're both very interesting in the ending. Dr. Usedek, I mean, I'm really pumped for him.
Let's go to the Ehrenberg-Hansen game. I mean, again, Hansen is holding. It's 16 seconds left on the clock and only a minute for Ehrenberg. Queen and pawn endings, also similar to the Ocean. You shouldn't turn your back on them. About the most crazy endgames possible. But can Hansen hold this one? This just feels like Ehrenberg is grinding this one Russian style.
Yeah, I feel like even if it's holdable, White is going to lose because of the clock situation.
Yeah.
It's very difficult position. So queen c2, you're hitting f5.
It's a nice
black
move.
And queen b4, and then trade queens on b2. Game over. Yep, there's queen b4.
Very nice move. The point, everybody, is the queen is frozen, cannot move and take f5 because the b2 square is mate. What a strong move by Ehrenberg, and he's going to win this one. Hansen moving with only 0.6 seconds on the clock, but queen b2 check is now going to be played, forcing your way into a winning king and pawn ending. You know what they call that, kids? Russian schoolboy technique. That's what they call that. Ehrenberg.
That's a clutch win. And honestly, I didn't catch the beginning of the game. I see it's a French variation change. But, that's an impressive win, at least from what I've seen from Ehrenberg. It was a very nice conversion. So he won the game. Let's go back to Lenderman because that game is down 20 seconds or under 10, almost under 10 seconds for Usedek. And what?
He lost a piece.
We turn away for a second, and he goes and playing
he went to Sacktown because his pawns on the queen side seemed dangerous, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, he made a bunch of mistakes over there. He gave Lenderman a pass pawn on c5.
Yeah, he took on c5. No reason to do that. The knight on b5 is super dominant, everybody, against this bishop on g3. You could play a move like rook to d8 and just avoid this stuff and try to wiggle your way around to eventually winning the isolated d5 pawn. Rook takes c5 was just a huge mistake. After b takes c5, White's pawns are just out of control.
Yeah, that was not a good decision, not at all. And okay, well, yeah, that's unfortunate.
That's a huge loss as far as the Chessbrahs are concerned, and they're engaged in a tough one here against the Sopranos, right? I mean, this is not a walk in the park for the Chessbrahs, who are not only a huge fan favorite because of their massive following on Twitch TV, but also last year one of the strongest teams in the league. You were sort of critical of them to start the season, saying you didn't think their team really got much better in the offseason, and as much as it was met to the chagrin of many fans on Twitch, I don't know that you were necessarily wrong, but I think that obviously they have some of the most experienced players in the world as far as Chess.com goes, with Hansen and Amon Hamilton. So don't count them out in this match yet. But after Lindemann wins this game, the Sopranos are going to be up 2 games, 5-3, headed into round 3.
Yeah, and by no means are the Montreal a weak team. They're a very strong team, but the point I want to get across is you lose Fabiano Caruana, there's no way your team doesn't get worse. That's
right.
it.
It's like saying you lose Magnus Carlsen and you're not worse. I mean, Fabiano's not nobody's Magnus, but you get the point. I agree.
Right. Well, speaking of Fabiano, I think we should hop to his game for a second, because I don't know what is going on where Fabiano has pawns on b3 and c3 as black, but his king is about to get in some danger with rook swinging over to the king side.
Yeah, he's taken on the one and only tennis master here, that being, of course, Yuneski Quesada.
So the rook can't take on c3 like it wants to, because the pawn e4 is hanging after that. So that kind of queen side pawn, I don't even want to call it structure. There's no structure over there. It's it's a total mess. But the queen side pawn positions are sort of stuck for the moment. You can't go b takes c3 from white, because then black goes pawn to b2, winning a piece. If you take with the rook on c3, you drop the e4 pawn. That's a very important pawn. So maybe white has to retreat first, make a move like knight to g3, with the idea being I'm overprotecting e4, so then I can start attacking the pawn on c3. But after knight g3, there's c2 moves, and I'm worried about that pawn getting to the 7th rank. I don't know, Danny. I would be very nervous to play as white here.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I was distracted by being insulted in the chat by the one and only Jan Ludwig Hammer, who noticed I said we when referring to grandmasters. I was trying to provide an instructive moment, but I do appreciate you going out of your way to find the insult. Appreciate that, guys. And any Hooters, back to the game. Yeah, I agree with you. Fabiano is really got Quesada under the pressure here on the queen side. In fact, I don't see a good move for white. I mean, I guess unless the best move is you just find a way to say pass, and maybe black's pawns, because if the pawns take b2, the bishop can take, and c2 really isn't going anywhere, at least not right away, because the b3 pawn is a target, and so maybe white has some useful move that isn't very obvious. Like, what about a move like queen e1, possibly pinning the pawn to the queen on a5?
Well, then I can still go c takes b2, so it's not quite a pin, but I
I wanted you to take b2 from the perspective that it kind of helps finish my development, right? And now b3 is a target.
Right, so queen e1 is actually a pretty good looking move there. Can I do something else, like queen?
Oh, wow.
What happened?
You just took b3.
Ooh, that what?
Here comes queen to b4. Now the knight is skewered to the b2 pawn. Okay, but Quesada clearly saw that coming and immediately plays knight d4. The point, everybody, by Fabiano is this attack on b3 is sort of a pin, because if the knight moves, then c takes b2 once again wins a piece. But okay, but that means Fabiano's going to be able to bring even more pressure. Something tells me we're not in Kansas anymore as far as calculation goes. This is probably going beyond my pay grade, as Hammer will remind me in the chat here pretty soon. So
well, I just like the black's activity, right? So knight takes e4 was just played. If you do a quick material count, white doesn't even have a pawn for the troubles. Earlier, it looked like white would go up a pawn, but still be unclear. Now it looks like, okay, you can move your rook to e3, but I'm concerned about knight coming to c5, maybe right there, and piling up on the pin, knight on b3. I mean, maybe white's okay, but you're hanging on by a thread, and your clock situation is terrible. You're down 6 minutes, so not liking that. Where can we go? I see lots of games going on with not that much time left. We have a game between Blue Wizard and Last Hero. That is Dennis Boros with the white pieces against Herman Del Morte.
So many games going. That's what makes it a lot of fun. I know that probably many of you are following the games you want on Chess.com directly, because it's hard for us to keep up with every game. But all right, let's go see how Dennis Boros is going to hold on in this rook ending or or maybe more, actually, because now the C pawn is...
Yep, now it's winning. So that was
She's a girl.
That was a really bad mistake. Yep, because rook b8 check.
She's a girl.
Well,
it's happening.
Mr. Grandmaster Boris did us a favor because we can pop away from his game after that. Critical
Yeah,
error,
no, he broke the water on the C file. She's a girl.
You're, sometimes I don't even know.
I don't even know why I said that. I've had 4 kids though. Now I have not personally had 4 kids, but I'm married to a woman who has, and so I'm allowed to make jokes like that. All right, where are we going? You got the games. Well, there's a whole bunch of games going, everybody. If you're just joining us, where have you been? The Pro Chess League is raging on. Week 3, there it goes. Dennis Boris wins on time before we even have time to choose another game. Let's look how the other 2750, nearly 2750 player is doing. We checked on Caruana, but what's Fedoseev got up his sleeve here against Iturrizaga?
He's got a worse position.
Yeah, he's got problems here. Some of them are on the G file.
Yep, and the C6 pawn already can be captured if white so chooses. I think that black's compensation can be in the well, no, I was going to say you can go bishop b4 to e1 at some point, but then you can just plop a rook on f4. So that's not really much of an attack. So what happens if you do take that pawn on c6? Is that not just a free pawn? I guess you could take on a2, but I'm not unhappy about that trade. I can put my rook on g4 check and then bring my queen over to c3. I mean, that's looking really nice for white. You're attacking a5 and f6.
Yeah, no, this just looks... like Fedoseev has his work cut out. I don't know that have we seen him lose yet?
Last week he did. He lost a game last week.
Okay, yeah, because last week I had the Central with Jen Shahadi, so I missed that. Okay, so he's lost 1 game so far in his Pro Chess League career.
Yeah. But
Iturrizaga is thinking about this one, but
Your guy Rosensalsa is doing well with the black piece against Alejandro Ramirez.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Alejandro, he will be fuming if he doesn't win this game.
Yeah.
And if he loses this game, you might never see him again.
Yeah.
So,
Alejandro, well, yeah, we'll just leave that as it is. Let's go check out this one here. Little Peasant, feeling a little peasanty. Right here. What is he doing with his queen on a1? That looks like it took effort to get her there.
yeah.
What happened there?
And look at all of white's pieces. They're tied down. The knight e1's tied to the pawn on d3. The knight on d2 is really tied down to the pawn on b3. If you go move like knight f3, there's knight c5 for black hitting both d3. Oh my god, bishop f1.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Danny, you cannot be happy with the white pieces here when all your pieces are moving backwards. Sure, there's no vital weaknesses. You're not totally lost yet. But move like knight g4 here. Just try to poke and prod seems right. So I would not be surprised if Ramirez comes back to win this game, but I hate his position right now.
Yeah, well, given the strength of the players, you expect Ramirez to be the favorite, even with kind of spotting his opponent this edge. But it is every piece, you compare them pound for pound, you like black's pieces better. Better pawns in the center. Nimzovich is proud. More targets here. Look at Rosenthal. That's one thing that makes him good, I think, in this format is he's very quick to recognize his practical edge. He just goes back to a6 because you know what he reminds Alejandro? You don't want to draw against me. I'm only 2100. So very quickly putting his bishop back on a6, hitting the d3 pawn, puts Alejandro immediately in sort of a practical position that he's got to make a big decision here. Do I keep playing on where I'm clearly slightly worse, or do I accept the draw against the much lower rated opponent? So I like that about Rosenthal as far as understanding quickly where he's at in the position. So.
And Forrest Chen actually is down to 10 seconds left in an endgame against Julio Becerra, where Becerra will be up a pawn in a rook and bishop of the same color ending. And unfortunately for Chen, he just hasn't had good time management because this could potentially be holdable if he is able to run his king to the center and kind of get some activity. But right now, with no time on the clock, he's in big, big trouble. And who else is? Oh, this is a good game, Danny, between Eric Rosen and Jacques Bleet.
Say that 5 times fast.
Bleet, 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 bleet.
There you go. That was like beep, 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 doop, doop. Whatever happened
but
to the Mario Brothers? Anyway, I wonder where Luigi is now. All right, hold on. I'm looking for this game. Where are we at? It's I Am Rosen versus who?
Bleep.
Bleep, 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 beep, beep. Sorry, I'm
Okay,
going to do that every time.
Look at the pawns, right? White is up how many pawns? 2 pawns. But the king is stuck on h1, giving black at least some drawing chance. Now, rook a3 check.
I don't have the game up. I can't find the game, literally.
Oh, well,
I've got 1.5 million games going.
So then we got to move somewhere else. We can't find it. It's unfortunate. It's an interesting. Now looks like a winning ending for Mr. Jacques Blies.
Jacques Blies, the deep.
It's not winning. I lied. I don't know. I can't tell. But you can't pick it up. So let's go to somewhere else.
Oh, I got it. I got it.
I'm proud of you.
I did it. He did it. We did it. We did it. Yeah, Los Simos. We did it.
So what? Wait, what? He just blundered a7.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm glad we went here. What is going on here?
Wasn't a7 just queening?
People making fun of me in the chat. I can't find the game on my own site. Hey, calm down. All right, I found the game. What's going on here? Only 7 seconds.
But he did miss a7 with a queen, right? That was just clear.
Bueller.
On move,
Bishop to e5 was played, and a7 was queening on the spot. Yeah, he missed it.
But okay, and this ending is actually very interesting. The problem for white is exactly this move g2 comes. Black gets rid of the pawn.
He forces him to move away from the a pawn. This should be an easy draw now. No, it's white king just comes up. It's over. This is a win.
Exactly, it's over. So what he did was, even though he had to give up his a pawn, the king is too far away, and now the king comes through e6, f7,
and a very nice maneuver there by everybody with king e6, king f7. The black king gets blocked out at the right time, and it's you might even see Rosen just resign here. It's over. No, okay, he's not going to resign. But after king to g8 or bishop d5 first, irrelevant which one you choose, white's going to win the bishop and then work his way back around and win the endgame. So Rosen playing it out. What? No, it doesn't work. Okay, for a second I was like, right, almost, right, instant replay. The king was trapped in the corner.
No, that's if there's a knight on the board and the wrong square.
The knight on the rim is grim. Okay, well, let's check out Little Peasant's game. Actually, no, Caruana's game against Quesada.
Yeah, that's
not a lot of time here.
30 seconds.
We got to go back. It's crazy town. The bishop just took on h3.
And then the bishop's going to take on a3, and the queen's going to take on b3. What is going on?
The trade happened on b3. Took on h3, everybody, with a tactic because of the f3 square. But now more and more pieces are getting traded. And somehow at the end of this line, white's going to end up down material because I forgot a3 was hanging. I just spied the rook. My little bishop, I spy with my little bishop a hanging rook on a3, and black's going to be winning.
Yep. And b3's hanging, everything's hanging. Now bishop takes a3, pawn takes and queen takes d5, wins the knight on b3. So that's more than enough material for Fabiano Caruana to convert into a full point. So,
yeah, wow, a very nice little tactic there. And I wonder how well he calculated it to start as soon as he played the move bishop takes h3. But either way, b3's falling, or Quesada might just let himself lose on time, get a cup of coffee, like MVL brought me.
So where can we go now? Finns is playing, and everyone loves their Finns. Fedoseev is still going in that position that we discussed before. Not much has changed in the Fedoseev game. We haven't looked at Finns in a while, so we can, for all the Johnny Bartholomew John Bartholomew fans, he is playing Jennifer Yu. And this is the least John Bartholomew-like position I think I've ever seen.
Let me guess. I don't even have it on the board yet, but I'm going to guess you're going to say because it's exciting.
Exactly. Not only is it exciting, it's like not symmetrical at all.
Right.
White, no G-pawn, it can't castle.
When did John Bartholomew become the punchline for boring draws chess?
No, I don't think he's boring draw. I just do think he's an ultra solid, which can be a compliment, but also can be.
You're so politically correct. That's why you're my soulmate. We counterbalance each other.
But Danny, I don't like White's position at all.
Yeah, no. Even though Bartholomew doesn't have a position that he normally plays, it doesn't mean it's a good one, because Jennifer Yu, I mean, she's due an upset. We know that Yu is a super talented lady.
Yeah.
Is that a penguin from Madagascar as her avatar? That could win my Avatar of the Year award. That is adorbs. Hashtag adorbs from the 12-year-old girl.
I don't know if she's 12. She might
Well,
be like 16, but same
whatever.
idea.
You get it.
But yeah, look at this. I mean, look at what Black's doing. Queen b6, hitting the d4 pawn, hitting the b2 pawn. If you make a move like bishop to c3, so what? Black can decide which way to castle. The bishop on d5 is the best piece on the board.
Yep.
Actually, after bishop c3, Black can even consider knight c7 to b5 or to e6. I really hate Bartholomew's position. So Johnny B had a tough first go in week 1. He went 1.5 out of 4, and it's not looking great in this particular game.
All right, well, this is an interesting one. Let's leave it behind, though. We'll see if, Jennifer, you can hold her own and get the upset. But the game between Fedoseev and Iturrizaga is getting closer and closer to some serious action under time pressure. And Little Peasant and Nicholas Rosenthal are getting under time pressure at the same time. So that doesn't spell, or that's not a recipe for consistent success if you're Grandmaster Ramirez. And actually, tell me he's not just much worse here. This is gonna be a great one to tease Hondi about this summer. You know what I'm saying?
He's not
that sounds like the next Jennifer Love Hewitt movie. Tease Alejandro this summer.
That would be hilarious. But I mean, right now he's down 2 exchanges, so he has to be careful of his bishop on c8 hanging. I don't really like what Black's done over that past few moves.
Yeah, how are these rooks any better here? In fact, now that was just like calling for it. Like somehow you knew those rooks got themselves in trouble.
So Queen e5, right? Trying to trade queens.
Queen e5 makes sense, right? You get the ladies off the board. You're still up the exchange.
Queen c5, actually, and then that way you're throwing mate on f8.
Oh, bam! Backdoor entry.
Yeah, you're definitely getting in trouble if you allow the queen to go to f8. But
yeah,
I don't know. You did go king g7 here, but now take on b1. You're only down 1 exchange now. Knight to e3, and after you go bishop g6 or knight e3, h5 wins the bishop because you have to give up the f5 square, control the f5 square. So
yeah, this looks like Alejandro showed his experience, and now I mean, if he puts a bishop on e4, okay, queen c7 even stronger and more accurate because moves like d6 are coming. But even if he just plays solidly with the bishop on e4, you look at Black's king being wide open, and with no time, you start to favor White here. Just really, really dangerous tactics on the board for Black.
Yeah, and speaking of Black's king being wide open, our buddy Alex Shabalov with the white piece against Daniel Gurevich. Gurevich has 1.5 minutes left, and his king is totally exposed.
Well, let's jump to that in just a second. I'm going to pull up that board. But what's going on here? Now we're really under time pressure, and Iturrizaga looks like he's about to hand Fedoseev his second ever Pro Chess League loss. I love this move e4. He's prying open access to the Black king.
Yeah, and the problem is that, you know, once you take on f5 and you can take with a knight on f5, then checkmate on g7. If you take on e4, you just take with a rook on e4. Probably. Oh, no, you don't do that because then queen d5. So pawn takes e4 here. Yeah, that's the best move, but maybe queen g5 check first.
No, you could still even take with the knight. Aren't you just mating me? Just take with the knight. Because knight f6 check and then discovered check.
But that's not made if I go with my king to h8 and then go block with pawn to f6.
Okay, but he finds a way to wiggle the queen in first. Now
rook takes, and after queen d5, f3, game over.
Yeah, and that's what he's going to do.
Or maybe king h3 is better. I don't know.
No, he finds f3. And we see Fedoseev living off the increment. Seconds on the clock. He'll give one more spite check on d2, and after king h3, the game's over. He does have... No, he has nothing. Rook to g5. Sack the queen or resign. Your choice, Russian Grandmaster. Iturrizaga getting a huge win here for the Miami champions.
I think Iturrizaga was something like 7.5 out of 8 before today, or something very impressive.
No, he's a very good rapid player, very good blitz player, and a huge player for the Miami champions this year. He's going to need to perform well week in and week out if they have a chance to make the playoffs and move on. All right, Little Peasant did find a way to come back against Rosensalsa, who's disappointing my fantasy team with every game he plays. Currently, the bishop e4, queen f4, he works the queen around. Good attacking technique from Ramirez. But let's jump to the game you said, because Shabalov versus Gurevich is also... It's also in highlight territory because somebody forgot to castle. That king on e8 is in trouble.
And not only did you forget to castle, you're also about to lose your knight after bishop takes b7, for example. Your knight's just lost. So Gurevich is totally busted here. Not a fun position to have. So that's Shabalov doing Shaba things. And in staying within that match, we can look at our buddy Sean Nagel. He's playing white against Attilio Shetty. It seems like this game has 1 million pawns, but they only have 6 aside. And it's because they both have long pawn chains.
So we want to move from Shabalov's grinded out victory here against Gurovich with less than a minute over to Nagel. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we don't got it, but I do love me some Sean Nagel chess.
Lego my Nagel.
Oh boy.
Finagle my Nagel. Here we go.
I don't know what I've done. I don't want to watch this game anymore now that you're talking like that.
Too late. We're already there.
I don't even know how to evaluate this position. An important thing to note is if all the major pieces are traded, that's all the rooks and the queens, then the white king is going to try to go after this G pawn, right? And all the black pawns are on light squares.
Yeah, no, I think if you took all the majors off, white's the only one who can win because the G pawn is the biggest weakness.
G3. Now you can put your bishop on G4.
Yeah.
If you want. You can
Nagel knows how to play on the angles of the chessboard.
Oh my God. You're just unstoppable.
If you scramble the word angle, you know what it spells? Angle.
That is true.
Boom. Drops the mic, walks out, retires. G moves, complimenting my flavor saver on my chin. Appreciate that. You looking for a game to change the course of this conversation?
No, I was just reading the chat as well, but also looking for games and things like that.
Yeah, I think Nagel plays bishop g4, though. Jokes aside, it's a strong move. And it's in a position where you got to like white, right? The counterparts favor their first player. Bishop action there, plus these pawns are weak. And enough to win, I don't know. But with time and knowing Nagel's experience, I actually expect him to get this win and bounce back from his first ever loss to Awonder Liang last round.
No, I don't think it was his first ever loss. I think in the first week of the season he
lost one.
Wait, no, he didn't have a loss. Maybe 3 draws and a win. I don't remember.
But Nagel doesn't lose chess games. Nagel wins chess games. All right, where do you want to go? We got so much action. We got Lenderman versus Hansen. That's a game.
That's where I wanted to go. Yeah, that game, Hansen is in big trouble. He's not doing well right now, Hansen. And this game, he's down a pawn, and he's just has a worse position, right? So White's pawn with compensation, as Ben Feingold would say. And here, there's a rook on b3, but okay, what does that do? There's nothing on the third rank. White can either go f4 with an eventual f5, or can play something like knight d3 to go to f4 to c5. I don't know. f4 seems perfectly good. You have so much space. Use it. Put a rook on f1. Blast through with f5. Black is just down material and worse.
Yeah.
Not good. Eric Hansen's struggling today. And how about, let's see, who else is going on here? We haven't looked at Awonder Liang versus Andrew Tang in a while, so we're hopping back over to Minnesota versus Pittsburgh. And Andrew Tang, with the black pieces, doesn't have a queen on the board, so he has a rook and a knight for a queen. And that's the entire material imbalance. But Awonder also is up 4 minutes on the clock with the better position. And a move like queen c5 stops black from playing d4. Okay, queen d7 also stops black from playing d4.
One of those rare times you see Andrew Tang down on time, right? I mean, it's not his jam. So he's one of the fastest players on planet Earth.
Well, I'm now concerned about White's winning chances because I thought putting the queen on c5 was better. But now that rook on e4, so if you take on d5, bishop takes e5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, rook takes b4. And I'm not sure how White is planning to win that unless you get f4, f5 in very quickly and just try to trap that bishop in. I think that black has almost full compensation to hold on to a draw here. I just don't see how you expose the black king when it eventually gets to h7. So bishop c2, that's a good move. Whoa. Queen d8 check, a nice intermediate move because now look at that. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, that was super strong technique. Everybody, he throws in the intermediate move to get the bishop to move off of the diagonal. Then he can capture on e3 and play queen to c8 taking advantage of the fact that the bishop isn't here, protecting the knight, and it wins the piece back because the bishop can't go back due to the fact that it's pinned. That was a mouthful for me to explain, but that was super instructive technique by Liang. Although still, this is one of those tricky positions where somehow the minors are perfectly positioned to kind of hold. We know that there's some games that are getting close to finishing between Minnesota and Pittsburgh, who, again, if you missed that memo earlier, were the only two remaining undefeated teams coming into Week 3 of the Pro Chess League. So we should bounce back here to Jennifer Yu's game against John Bartholomew, Robert, but we have to keep our eye on this Liang game as well because there's almost no time left for Tang. So, but what's going on here? With both players under a minute, this position is still super complex. Finns seems to have figured it out. I don't like Jennifer's position anymore, especially given that it seems hard to stop the move b4 coming for white.
Yeah, I agree with you. b4 can be threatening, but I do not like the fact the white king is still in the center. So move like, I don't know, can I just move my queen somewhere to c7 and try to go f4? Is that a possibility? But you're right, b4 comes very quickly there.
Yeah, no, b4 seems...
Whose attack is coming first, right? If black goes f4, you can take on e3. So rook d7. Oh, that's okay. So now b4, I guess you can take on b4 and play rook c8, something like that.
Well, let's stick right here with this match. We got to go right back to where Penguin GM's Andrew Tang is on the ropes against Awonder Liang, and Liang seems to have figured out a way for the queen to show why she's stronger than two bishops. Tang's going to have to give up one of them to stop the h-pawn, and then the rest should be a matter of technique, yeah.
So that was a nice conversion there by
Liang. Okay,
Whoa.
so...
Bartholomew all of a sudden is now just like in the driver's seat because he got your b4 move and a rook on c1, and he had to give up the d5 pawn in order to make it happen. But I'm concerned for black that the move c6 is being threatened. So queen c6. Now there are some ideas with knight c3 check and queen takes bishop on g2. King f1 here maybe? But after king f1...
The bishop on d2 is loose, although I don't see any tactics.
I think king
king f1 was a nice move.
King a8.
Well, she's trying to play prophylaxis without a lot of time on the clock, put herself in a position where she can't make a blunder, tucks the king away.
Rook d1, not d5 knight.
You got to go back. Wait, what is that?
What? That's a free piece.
She just blundered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he takes his time to make sure, but that was just a straight-up blunder, and she just resigns. Wow, unfortunate there for Miss Yu, but fortunate for Minnesota as their top board, Tang, fell to Liang. Finns gets a big win, but that means it all comes down to the least clear angle on the board, and Sean Nagel.
But look at Nagel's position now. That bishop on h5 cuts off the h-file for black to use. Rook f7, queen f6 right now. I mean, black
this is a nightmare. Yeah, he just gobbles the pawn first because, hey, why not? But now queen f7 is probably good enough, although queen d7, a nice little practical shot. If white blunders this game by allowing black to work the queen around, then it's not over yet. But as long as Nagel sees that, he should be good.
Why I like the move rook f7, because the queen had nowhere to go. And then you go queen f6 next and just cut off.
But even still, the... maybe it's actually more irritating than I thought. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Nagel doesn't know what to do. He plays rook d6, but here comes queen a4.
A-pawn's hanging. Queen d1 is a threat.
He's going to play... Okay, bishop g6 is...
Queen d1, right? Something like that? Or taking queen d1? Uh-oh.
Yeah, suddenly Nagel gets himself in trouble with this surprising shot. Your technique with rook to f7 was much better, Robert. You're right.
Yeah, in those type of positions, I just don't like giving my opponent any counterplay. Oh, rook f... Queen...
Well, if rook f8, there's still rook f6 in a lot of positions.
Rook h8. Rook h8. Oh, the h2 square.
Oh, no. Big trouble. H-file problems. He moves the king. Queen g2 is met by queen e1. Oh, my gosh. And Shetty's going to turn it around and get this win. Unbelievable.
That's it.
That's a huge loss for Nagel. And black is even going to win the rook to go with it just by giving enough checks to get on the right file. Wow.
Yep.
Queen c2. Nice technique by Shetty. Puts the game away.
Well, that's the problem in blitz, especially when you're down to essentially bullet time control.
Right.
If you do not keep all your opponent's chances at bay, the queen just got to a4, and all of a sudden Nagel went down. So
that was a huge win there for Shetty, especially because it was another example of brilliant Nagel technique. I mean, he had really we were applauding his efforts here We came to the position just a few moments ago right here where white just is in complete control, owns the only 2 access points on the board, those being the F and the H files, everybody. But then one sloppy move, missing your opponent's counterplay, puts white's king in danger, and that's enough to lose the game without any time on the clock. Wow. Massive turnaround there. Okay. The other games that are in action, obviously the biggest match that we talked about, or the biggest match of this round 3 matchup between the Chessbrahs and the Sopranos, is probably the Lenderman-Hansen game, where we still love Lenderman's position, honestly. This just was not a good game for Eric to start.
Yeah, Lenderman's still up a pawn. Look just optically, right? I don't even have to count material. I love white's position. The knight on f4 is excellently placed. The bishop can come to c2 and at some point. The a4 pawn can be a target. h5 is definitely in the cards for white. The knight at c7 is stuck because knight e6 check is a threat. So everything is going Lenderman's way, and the clock situation as well. So Lenderman playing a very nice game, and if he does not take home this point, I will be thoroughly shocked. And how about Dr. Bassem Amin, another interesting endgame. He is the white
Yeah, we haven't seen many of his games today. Let's do that.
Yeah, Dr. Bassem, the first African player to reach 2,700. And he now is slightly below 2,700 again. But, okay, of course, if you're near 2,700, you're very strong. Here he's playing Jordan Van Forest, and he's the white pieces, 2 bishops. That bishop can go to c8 at the right moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first thing that jumps at you is the pawn stuck on the same color square as the bishop black doesn't have. So that's, and there you go, bishop c8.
But king e7 now, right? So if you take on b7, the king goes to d7, and that bishop sort of gets stuck over there. And then
yeah, but you can't trap me, can you? That's what's weird. I'm not sure you can.
But I can go bishop a7 to attack c5 and then keep all your pieces stuck. And I think, do I trap you though? Okay, so if I go king e7.
Okay, so I'm already in the position after bishop takes b7, king d7. Let's say I play king e2. How do you trap the bishop? Because if the knight ever moves...
Bishop a7.
Okay, I missed that the king can actually get all the way to b8. Okay.
But you might attack my knight in the process. So like if my king goes to c7, you attack my knight, maybe you're in time there. So
well, even something like, let's say king f3, king c7, king a8, bishop a8, king b8, I have bishop c3, shockingly, maybe.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No, but you have knight a2, though, so you still win a piece. But yeah, no, that's tricky stuff. Obviously, Basim is calculating that right now with only just under 4 minutes. Okay, but the other games from this matchup between the Chessbrahs and the Sopranos are just as big. We've already talked a little bit about the Lenderman-Hansen game. We also have Sergei Ehrenberg taking on the other doctor.
Dr. O.
Dr. Usetic. Dr. O.
Usetic in a good position here.
Yeah, this is funky.
It's like black is his isolated pawn. A little bit more activity for the moment, but at any time, white can go bishop to d3 to kick this rook off c2. The pawn structure certainly favors white. I guess the one thing that I'd be very concerned about from white's point of view is that if that knight on e8 goes through d6 to b5 to c3, something like that, that would be a bad sign for white. But
no, if you could just put a knight on c3, black would really be happy. But Usetic seems to be defending that for the moment. This bishop a6 is actually kind of useful, and I wondered maybe he could have played bishop d3 there first with tactics, but didn't want the g4 pawn to be a problem. So, okay, he's trying to defend with trades, and I mean, honestly, you look at the Grandmaster title there, you think, how did black let this one go? But Usetic is doing just fine here.
Yeah, It should be. I think with proper play is just equal because now you have to worry with the d5 pawns. The only way to protect it besides trading rooks is a rook c5. It's kind of a weird square. And now, there are not that many weaknesses from white. White's also up 2 minutes on the clock. And with so few pieces remaining, it's hard to imagine how white can lose this. But though this is the Pro Chess League, it is speed chess at this point, and so these things keep happening round after round.
Well, let's jump over to the other game between the Chessbrahs and the Sopranos. Obviously, we have the bearded one, the formerly bearded one, putting on a show right now against Dan Smith, who, although Dan has held his own today and been in several games, he he's 0-2 at the moment, right? I mean, he had a great game against Eric Hansen that was spoiled via time pressure, had a game that was probably winning by mine and your calculations as far as the king and pawn ending against Grandmaster Jordan Van Forest. But here he looks like he's really on his heels because Amon Hamilton is kind of picking and choosing. I was going to say you have queen h4 as well as rook takes f7, and white's just crushing through here.
Yeah, this is all but over just because after f7 falls, g6 falls, c6 will be under attack if the rook swings over to c7, if everything's traded on f7. So it's pretty over.
Okay, well, if Amon Hamilton takes down Dan Smith, it's tough for the American poker player, right? Yes, for those of you wondering, that is the legendary Dan Smith, who you've seen on ESPN and World Poker Tour shows for years. But he's going to be 0-3 heading into the last round. Maybe he'll have a chance to get a win in the board 4 battle. But where should we go? I think back to Hansen and Lenderman seems like the obvious choice. Eric Hansen has fans screaming at him in the chat to play better chess. They want Hansen to get a win, and he's trying, but right now he's 2 queens are better than 1.
Yep.
That's one of the few things you can just say that unequivocally. 2 queens are better than 1.
It's also amazing that this game is still going. Like, black has 10 seconds. White is a very strong grandmaster who is up 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, well, Hansen decides he doesn't have anything left in him to defend this, and that pushes the odds in favor of the Sopranos, who continue to put on a show here. I mean, I don't know if it was just my bias toward the Chessbrahs name, but I really thought that they were the favorite coming into this match, but Sopranos are starting to pull away with it heading into round 4.
Yeah, I think the Sopranos are a good matchup against the Chessbrahs just because it's a 3 GM lineup with the Montreal. You have Bassem Amin, you have Lenderman, you have Ehrenberg, and for the Chessbrahs, you also have a 2.5 GM lineup because, again, Amon's not a GM yet, but he's by all purposes he's GM. It's a 3 GM lineup, and then the board 4s will go at it. So that will be crucial, I think, in the final round. Who can win between Dan Smith and Dr. Usedek? And the game going on here is now Jordan Van Forest with the black pieces. He's got the better of this ending, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and wondering how that happened. Obviously, white played the move bishop c8 that we encouraged him to do, but somehow that pawn didn't turn out to be as good as we thought. As we back up to that position, everybody on the analysis board, you can follow the live position, but let's see what happened here. King e7, white did take b7, and found a way to not let the bishop get trapped by running his king to undermine the knight on b4. But unfortunately, the time it took to do that transitioned surprisingly into an endgame where look at this position, everybody, on the analysis board. White is up a pawn. But when you have targets on the same color square as your opponent's bishop, as it is here on c5, that's a problem. And black is actually going to be the one who's better because he'll be the first one with the pass pawn, which is the c pawn. Okay, so it's probably okay drawing chance, but this really turned around for the good Dr. Basim.
Yeah, well, no, against him, right?
That's what I mean. Turned around.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. It turned around for him because he was winning, and it went the wrong way. But yeah.
Right. No, that's my bad. Obviously, you were saying that, but right now he's pushing his pawn to e7. But the problem there is that now after e7,
king d7, the e7 pawn can fall with just bishop c5. Yeah, and he plays it before I can highlight it. Really, one of those weird endgames, Robert, right, where you go for a straightforward line. I mean, I even highlighted bishop c8, but the moment we did it, you called it. You started talking about king e7, and surprisingly...
don't like that decision. I really don't like that decision. Look at the h1 square. Okay, maybe he's getting there too quickly for it to
I don't
matter.
know why. Yeah, everybody, the decision here, right here, black had no reason to take h5 and leave himself with an h-pawn that's the wrong color square to the bishop. That's what Robert is critical of. You want to leave yourself with the g-pawn because then you have the same color square on g1. So that was a strange decision that may end up leading to a draw for Van Forest because of it.
I think he's in time because by he being Van Forest, because not the bishop is the same color. If you go bishop d8, I go bishop g5, then I go h4, then I go 8, then bishop back to f4. So your bishop's getting cut off at the wrong time.
Yeah, wow.
This is actually another instructive ending.
Yeah, this is again, we're learning endgames here today, everybody. Black is going to be just in time, and now you're even threatening things like bishop e3, cutting off the bishop from the diagonal. So Basim is thinking, trying to come up with his last chances to draw, but Jordan Van Forest, call it a swindle, call it whatever you want, but he managed to win an endgame down a pawn, and that doesn't happen very often in Grandmaster play. Seriously.
And go to Ehrenberg. Ehrenberg just flagged.
What?
Ehrenberg
flagged against Dr. Usetic. That is a massive win for the Chessbrahs.
6-6. This match is tied 6-all, and in an equal ending.
Honestly, that upset right there might save the Chessbrahs in this match.
That's crazy.
Literally Ehrenberg faces F4. Look at this, with 22 seconds on the clock on the board here.
What could have happened then? There's no way he was thinking for 20 seconds.
I think he was. I think maybe he just lost sight of time. After in this position on F4, everybody, Ehrenberg goes from 22 seconds to nothing and loses on time.
That has to be an internet thing. I mean,
you think he got disconnected? But we had a similar thing in week 1 where we thought it, and someone just kind of spaced out their clock.
That's insane. How can that happen? That just should never, ever happen. You got to keep an eye on the clock at all times. We still have more games left, so I'm shocked. But I guess
we got to leave this behind. Although if you look at the position, Usetic had worked himself into probably at least a draw here against Ehrenberg. But yeah, that is mind-blowingly shocking. And where does that leave us? It leaves us in a 6-6 tie heading into the final round.
Right,
and we got to go back. It's time to move back to the first match we started with. Also, still pretty close. The bishops and the champions. The champions are not out of it right now. And
2-game deficit. So all the bishops needs at 1.5 points here. And I feel like they'll get it. And well, I'm looking through the games right now to see where we should start. I guess we should always start with Fabiano, right? That makes most. And his position is looking good. He's playing Eduardo Tirizaga. We were complimenting him just before in a nice game. And now Tirizaga beat Fedoseev. Now he gets the pleasure of playing Caruana. Doesn't get any easier. But look at the position. Black and white have the same amount of pieces, equal in terms of pieces. The difference is white has a second knight, whereas black has the 2 bishops. The 2 bishops are not an advantage at all, honestly, at the moment, because there's not really open space with the light square bishop, and the knight in d4 is actually attacking that one. And most importantly, the spatial advantage for white mixed in with the fact that, look at this diagonal, the queen on e3, the bishop on c5. If the threat right now is knight takes e6, followed by bishop b6, skewering the queen and rook. And so I think that black has to be very careful at this moment, and I'm really loving Fabiano's position.
Yeah, no, this looks like Fabiano is showing why he's almost 2,800. That's really good, by the way. Have we ever talked about how really good 2,800 is? It's pretty good.
All right.
Yeah, it's all right. Whatever.
Could be better. Could be Magnus rate.
Exactly. All right. Well, okay. If Fabiano Caruana continues to grind down Tirizaga here, the board 2 matchup, of course, that being between Fedoseev and Quesada.
Wow.
What goes here?
Isn't rook d7 just, there's
rook d7 is just lights out.
Check. No, bishop g5 check. So you're not dead yet. I forgot about there's an intermediate check.
Bishop g5 check. The king moves to b1.
Then maybe queen
c4? Can I get away with a double attack on the queen and knight trying to head to the endgame? No, my bishop on b7 is a problem.
But the bishop on h3 is hanging as well after the queens get traded.
Yeah, so Chopalicious, trade town. And although the endgame, isn't Fedoseev just better in the endgame? He's up a pawn.
Fedoseev is better everywhere. And
it pays to have 2 2700s on your team, Robert.
Doesn't hurt, that's for sure. So there's some tactics in the air. That's the only thing keeping black in the game right now. So bishop g5 check is forced. I don't really know what he's thinking about. But Quesada has this really interesting style. Sometimes I feel like he's a very solid player. But then you have games like this where clearly it's hectic. So I don't really know how to peg him down. This game between... okay, it's over. I don't really need a... Never mind. I was going to mention a game that's just dead lost.
Which game? Yeah. Well, I mean, we should take a look at Becerra versus Ramirez.
Yeah, we should stay in this match. I think that's a better place to be. And
at this point, the Bishops versus Champions match will be the next one that ends, so we'll try to be on the edge of our seat here. Although the Bishops, well, they came into the round moments...
Becerra's crushing.
Yeah, but I was going to say they came into the round moments away from putting away the match, but Alejandro Ramirez is getting slaughtered here, although... Up 2 games heading into this match and knowing what we've already seen from Fabiano Caruana and Fedoseev, still seems very likely the Bishops are going to win this match. But yeah, this is typical Julio Becerra here, just on a massive attack.
Okay, so Becerra's just crushing, so that's great. I'm just tuning over. You don't have to go there. That Nicholas Rosenthal is up a pawn, and remember, he no longer plays for St. Louis. He plays for Miami. So if Becerra wins and Rosenthal can convert his extra pawn into victory, that means the match will be tied for the time being. So that would leave Fedoseev and Caruana to they need to score between them 1.5 out of 2. I think that's very, very likely considering the positions they both have.
Yep.
But still work to be done.
All right, well, let's jump back into that. I want to see what's going on between Caruana and Iturrizaga.
Black went backwards on bishop e6 to c8 and then knight e7 to g8. And
back to their original squares. There's no place like home, Dorothy. Okay, but now Caruana's going to pop in with knight b5. Oh, I thought his idea was to play knight c to b5 and overload the queen on f7, but no, he just plays a simple...
c5 was hanging, so you had to protect it first.
Okay, yeah, oversight.
Okay, but now d4 for black, right? At least you're getting a little bit of activity. The bishop can go to b7 after that.
Yeah, this doesn't look...
This is at least a counterplay that Iturrizaga needed to stay in the game, because after d4 still, knight b5, your move looks very strong. Because a5 is under attack, the d4
Yeah, I mean, I think knight b5 is coming, and I wanted it right away, but of course the bishop. But now Iturrizaga has to think about how to deal with that because f7 is under fire. Okay, well, we'll keep our eye on this one. Fedoseev is on the prowl here, but wait a second. Yeah, no, Quesada's just going down a piece because after he moves the rook... Unless there's some sort of back rank problems for white that Fedoseev can't deal with. This is tricky. This is weird.
What just happened here? So wait, why do you go queen d3 check? That's my question. I thought he was going to rook takes h3. That was his whole plan.
Yeah, wait, they were in the line that we were talking about.
Right, and he went rook queen d3 check. Although it is very tricky here. I thought he was going to go rook takes h3 because the queen is overloaded because the queen took on h3, then there was queen takes e4 check, and then queen takes b7. Tactics in the air.
Right.
But what he did in the game with queen d3 check, king a1, rook f8. So the bishop still covers f1, which means that white has time to make any old move. But what's a useful move? So queen e5 threatens checkmate, but you can just block out bishop f6. But maybe, just maybe, you can go queen e5, inviting bishop f6, and play queen c5. And you just kind of...
the rook.
And where does that bishop go now? Because it can no longer go back to its g5 square. And
yeah, and if there's no back rank threats, then at some point, one of the ways white saves both minor pieces under fire is by playing a move like knight to g3, saving the knight and blocking the rook from taking the bishop. So unless black has something here, then I mean, the other move that white could be considering in the live position is knight g3 immediately, right? I don't think f1 is a problem.
Oh, rook f1 check, Danny. Rook f1 check.
Oh, I missed it. Rook f1, everyone, you got to see. Rook f1, after the rook takes, you just sack the rook straight up and then win with checkmate on the back rank. That's fun.
So the only reason queen e5 keeps white in the game there is because rook f1 check is still possible, but you don't take on f1. You play knight c1 there. And that way, g7 mate will come first. There's no, black's not time to deliver checkmate. And now the bishop on h3 opens up an attack on the rook on f1 in that variation. So
yeah, that's nasty.
The queen e5.
Wow, this is a mess. You can tell why Fedoseev is taking a think here because you are literally a single move away from a blunder. I was about to say mouse slip away from the blunder, and I realized you're always a mouse slip away from a blunder, so that was irrelevant. But okay. So Fedoseev has got to figure out the tactics here. Caruana has got to do work against Iturrizaga, but Iturrizaga is, well, he's not lost yet. After the queen moves on f3, the rook is hanging on d4, but
what's going on here?
But how to do that? Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
So, but if you move your queen, then queen c6 happens. And
and you got a battery. Like, if the queen goes here, everybody, thinking that you're in a fork position, black saves the rook with queen to c6 because of the mate threat on g2.
Okay, this is definitely not what Caruana wanted, but
for sure. He's up a pawn in the knight and rook ending, but can he hold on to the majority on the queen side and actually have winning chances? I don't know.
I think, yeah, rook e5 is a good starting move. So you give up b2 for the a pawn,
Yeah.
and you're up a pawn, and it's an outside pawn. And why that's so important to everyone is that usually in endgames, the king wants to maneuver over to where the passed pawn is. When it's a passed a pawn, the king has a long journey before getting over the side, and thus gives white much better winning chances than, say, if it was a d pawn. So
that's a decoy at work. And speaking of doing work, Becerra finished off that game, everybody, just to show you what happened over here on the analysis board. Things got ugly real quick. We left you after queen g7, no surprise. It was just a big attack there. So Becerra gets a big win for Miami because that actually puts Rosenthal in striking distance of doing something. And we've been watching these top boards here for good reason, and we'll keep our eye on it. But obviously we have the game going on between Rosenthal and Chen. And what's going on here as I peek in?
So your buddy
Rosensalsa, maybe he has a chance to redeem himself. I mean, for the champions, not for me. My fantasy score already no good, but it serves me right for living in the past. I was thinking of last year.
And this is a very tough converting task. Because
he's up a c pawn, but if anything, the f2 pawn might be... Okay, king g2. Do you want to trade queens in a position like this? Interesting question, right? I mean, as far as instructive for the fans. I think what you'd really like is somehow get your bishop to this diagonal. He plays bishop d3. If white could just pop the bishop from d3 to b3, you're much happier with white's chances for obvious reasons, the f7 pawn. And this bishop is kind of useless in that obscure bishop dynamic. But how does white convert this endgame if Grandmaster Robert Hess was playing white here?
Well, it looks much better than it did a couple moves ago, I feel like. But still, your idea is absolutely right. You got to put pressure on the f7 pawn. And the reason why is by doing so, the rook is tied down to f8. So if you exchange queens, let's imagine the queens are just off the board. Let's toss them off. Then you're going to want to maneuver your bishop to, let's say, the d5 square, and then start bringing your king into the center. Mm-hmm. And this actually reminds me of Magnus Carlsen's win over Maxim Matlikov in the Tata Steel Masters, because it was very similar. White was up a pawn, that was Magnus, and it was a rook and bishop ending of opposite colors, just like this. And he ended up winning that game, though it should have been a draw.
And that's exactly what Rosenthal's trying to do here, by the way. He's wiggling his bishop around, striving to get to the d5 square. And here he can just play rook b7.
Now bishop c6, Danny. Cut that queen off.
Ooh, bishop c6, even better. I was pointing out that you don't really have to leave the 7th rank with rook b7, and the bishop can come here next. But you're right, bishop c6 would be even stronger. The queen is completely cut off.
Honestly, rook b7 is a very good move because and there he goes. Look at him go. And the point is that here, white starts with queen c3 check, and then bring the queen to f6. Just keep your black is totally tied down. There's not h4, h5 is an idea for white. g4, g5.
Yeah.
You've cut the queen off. The queen on c8 is not going anywhere. F queen a6. You can even go pawn a4 or bishop d5. So
yeah, here you have queen f6 immediately if you want. You could take it slow. Turn on some Jamie Foxx, slow jams with h4, h5.
d4, right? That way you can go
c4, anchor in the bishop to d5 at some point. Yeah. No, white is in control here. So if Rosenthal wins this instructive obscure bishop position, it's all going to come down to whether St. Louis's strategy of putting all their rating chips, if you will, on the top two 2700s is going to pay off.
Well, the 2700s, we got to go back to Fabiano.
Yeah, I'm already there, dude. Look at, black's king looks in trouble, but maybe it's white's king that's actually in the mating net. Because
can we go over to Fedoseyev's game really quickly?
Let's do it.
Because I think after rook f2, there's mate ideas of queen b2, mate queen takes f2. I was about to say was just played, and the point is after queen takes f2, rook f1, right? Because
skewering.
And queen c5, you take on f8,
and then rook c7.
Rook c7 at the end.
Booyah, protected by the bishop and winning.
Wow, that's a nice
He's
tactic.
going for that exact line. Fedoseev is going to clinch the match. He's going to clinch the match tie right now for St. Louis. Ooh, rook c7, intermezzo, even sexier. And Big Fish just resigns. Again, everybody, the instructive combination to end here is the point is the queen is overwhelmed to the back rank, and if she defends it, it doesn't matter. You trade and then pin, and Fedoseev shows why he's pretty darn good, that guy from Russia. Okay, so that means it's all coming down to Caruana and Iturrizaga. Caruana now only needs a draw to clinch the match for the St. Louis Archbishops, but this is not a simple position.
He looks closer to a loss.
I know, that's what I was. I mean, you pulled me to the Fedoseev game, rightly so. But what I was about to say is, if you look at this endgame, everybody, the black king looks in danger, but actually, the white king might have more problems dealing with all of black's pieces here, and if black's king comes up, there could be a mating net.
So maybe, well, because knight f6 check, he did just play king h4 only move.
Only move.
Knight to e4, is that possible? Or then you're take on h3 with the king, aren't you? No, then knight takes g5 check. Wow, that's awesome. So if knight e4 here, king. If you go king takes h3, trying to checkmate me on b1.
Look at this. Knight takes g5, and if pawn takes, rook h7 is mate. Holy moly! Seriously,
and that's such an important pawn to get rid of.
Yeah, no, that would be huge. So white has to be very careful here. But okay, Caruana finds it. He plays knight e4. He's got this tactic in mind. Okay, the knight's going to take h3 with check and then go back to f4 likely. There's no reason to take with the king. Iturrizaga is trying to calculate some sort of mating net. The Miami champions' chances to tie this match is on the line. Of course, we're assuming we'll leave the main board here, moving the analysis board over to the Rosen-Salsa game. We're assuming that Rosenthal takes care of business here. He is still on the mating net prowl and up now 3 pawns in the obstacle bishop ending. So we're assuming Rosenthal is going to take this, so we're going to keep our focus over here. Iturrizaga indeed takes h3, king g2, little tickle. Now what?
Rook a2, I guess you have to go if you get behind the pawn, but then rook h7. No, and look at Iturrizaga.
Black has to do something more than just checks. We know that pickle tickle leaves everyone unsatisfied.
Oh, gosh. Again, every time you say something like that, it reminds me of Rick and Morty.
I don't even know what you're talking about, buddy. I was just talking about a game of tickle leaves everyone unsatisfied. A draw. No one wants. I don't know where your head's at. Get your head out of the gutter.
Well, this match is coming to a close, and so Iturrizaga has got to move. You know, he's got to find something, because otherwise the game is just going to be a draw, and the team goes down by 8.5, 7.5.
Yeah,
right?
he's got to. I mean, Caruana knows the match is on the line too. Obviously, at this point, you can see the score. 8-6. Again, Rosenthal has just officially won, so that scoreboard is instantly updated. 8-7, thanks to our team, all the hard work that goes into making this as real time as possible. H5. We're on the edge of our seats. How does he create the net? I mean, if he could somehow get G4 and G3, or he's got to get more involved in the action against Caruana's king. But if Caruana just plays a move like, let's say, rook A7 and just tries to guard the A pawn, is there a way to create attacking chances if you're Iturrizaga? How do you do it?
I was trying to go rook A3 to attack F3, but I don't think I'm actually ready to do so.
That's not a bad idea, though. I like that. How do you guard it?
Rook A3, though, maybe rook G7.
Okay.
Actually, what about rook G7 here? Oh, but then, yeah.
Oh, no, he goes for it. Yeah, no, rook G7 looks like the problem. Okay, I think Black is in great position to draw this game, everybody. Don't get us wrong. I mean, he's holding a position here against a 2,800 Grandmaster, so a successful result as far as the X's and O's go for Iturrizaga already, but he has to win this game for his team, so that's the problem with Black's position. I mean, at this point, Caruana is happy to settle on the draw, and so how does he do that?
I think, well, rook D7, I wasn't... Okay, he's going to D2, yeah?
He's going to come to D2 and just try to sit tight, buckle up.
Or knight G3, right? Knight G3 threatens rook D4 check, or knight F5 mate, right? That's the real threat. So knight G3.
Knight G3, knight F5 mate. Wouldn't that be a fancy way to end the game? That king is trapped on H4.
That'd be so tragic.
Fabiano's getting down on time, though. I mean, this is going to come down to who has the better time scramble skills. Fabiano is lucky he's playing for 2 results, meaning a draw or a win, obviously. Wins the match for his team.
Knight takes F2, only move. G4, maybe that.
G4 also defends the knight on H3.
But I was worried about that move. Now knight takes F2, rook F5, not knight F5, rook F5.
Rook F5 forces the trap.
That's wins. Rook F5 wins. Wow.
Mating him. Oh my gosh. Look how nasty that is. And he loses on time. And Caruana wins the match for the Archbishops, everybody. Why was that a win? Rook F5 was a double threat. Obviously, if the rook moves off the 5th rank to anywhere, Black gets mated. But the problem is the only way to stop the mate on h5 would be to trade on f5, and the king is mated on h4. Bananas. Let's get a clip of that. Wow. Great win there, and the bishops move on. Fantastic match there. That came down to the wire. The champions held their own against the two 2700s on boards 1 and 2. But ultimately, Caruana gets a big win, and the bishops take the match. All right, we move on.
Let's go to Pittsburgh with Minnesota, right? That's the next match?
Absolutely. We start on board 1.
Bartholomew's game against Attilio Shetty, because JB is doing everything that I wouldn't expect him to do, and he looks like he's in huge trouble.
Well, I had to start on board 1, Tang versus Shaba, just to take a quick peek. But no, let's move on, as you said. Finns is...
I think knight d4 by Attilio Shetty just ends the game, or comes close to it, because you're threatening c6, you're taking on e6. Yeah. Knight d4 just looks...
So many games of Finns, not enough time.
I know. I think John Bartholomew is really in trouble here and probably just lost.
Yeah, I'm looking for the game. I'm sorry. Got a lot of games going on here.
Whoa, he just did. He left his queen under attack by going knight f4. So the knight was in d5, went to f4. The problem is, I'm not going to take your queen on b5, even though that's still probably good for white. I think just queen g7 now. I'm threatening your rook on h8.
Yeah, what happened here for John? I got to back up on the analysis board. Where did the game go so wrong? Crazy line in the semi-Slav. Haven't seen this in a long time. Doesn't work out at all for Bartholomew.
Not even close.
Not even close. I mean, I don't know if he was trying to surprise his opponent, but this is an easy position for white to play from the start with the big center and the kingside attack, and now white is just, I mean, an accurate move away from winning. You could take on e6 too, but queen g7 looks perfect.
Yeah, this is bad news. So let's bop around to his teammates, right? Because they're also in time.
Yeah, well, if Finns falls here to Shetty, that puts even more pressure on the game that we were about to start with. Of course, one Andrew Tang playing board 1 for the Minnesota Blizzard. He's worse, though, against Shabalov. How much worse is the question? Those knights on the c-file are looking dandy.
Yeah, those are some fun knights there.
I know how Robert feels about pony play.
Oh boy!
If anybody Googles pony play right now, you win the award. If you're under 15, please do not Google pony play.
That's dangerous. So back to the knight play, and then we'll call it jousting. Okay,
jousting. There we go. We trade on e3. Okay, pawn takes. I think we get queen c2. Is that what we're gonna see?
A queen c, yeah. So queen c2, you take on c2, right?
Yeah, I got to because the queen is hanging, and now I can take with the knight or the rook maybe. But okay, knight I guess makes sense. You win e5. I win e3. Maybe I'm wrong that this is the right approach for black. No, yeah. So Shaba decides to be a little more patient.
But I was about to say rook c1 looked not fun.
Yeah, and Tang plays it instantly. We're going to see a sack?
You can take on... I
want to take.
I think you have to, because otherwise you're just get ground down with the queen and bishop. Queen and bishop against queen and knight, the queen and bishop are always much stronger. Not all, okay, I shouldn't say always, but in a position like this, where the bishop will be on e5, and there are going to be some ideas with lining up the queen and bishop in the long diagonal, the queen and bishop are far superior. By taking on c1, then putting your rook on c7, even if white wins this e5 pawn, the challenge is how do you actually win the game? Because the double e-pawns are stopped in their tracks. Black can just kind of go h5, maneuver the rook back and forth on e7 and c7, and I don't really see a clear way for white to win.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem with Shaba is I think he thought he was in the driver's seat here.
Yes.
So, I mean, yes, I agree with you. Queen takes c1, black shouldn't lose that, but I'm not sure black has any winning chances. So... Okay, well, obviously, he's going to go for it, probably because he has no choice. I think he just blundered rook c1, to be honest. Based on how he managed his time there, that seems like a pretty fair observation to make. And again, black is not in danger of losing this. The rook and the knight guard everything. The knight guards c7, so this rook can easily guard the only other weakness on a7. Should be pretty easy for black to hold this. The double pawns don't help white's mission of trying to open up lines for the queen. Because there's no ideas like f4 or anything. So, Okay, but if this game ends up being a draw, and if Finns falls to Shetty, as we suspected, guess who it comes down to? Guess who it comes down to?
I'm gonna have to guess Nagel.
Where's my angle? It's on the Nagel board. I can't find the...
I found it. It looks like Nagel is at least has a draw in his position against Jennifer Yu. He has the dark squares under control. Jennifer Yu has 17 seconds left. Yes, Jennifer Yu is up a pawn. Okay, what was that? That did not look like a good move.
Yeah, Nagel is...
Okay, I think he's still able to draw. But
should still be able to draw, but with the queen guarding h4 and helping the d-pawn advance, it's not so clear where the easy perpetual is for the queen here, because you got this awkward dynamic where you give check, the king moves, black needs a tempo before the queen can come back, and every tempo lost makes it easier for white to just rush the d-pawn.
So I think you have to go queen e3 to c1 to f4. And just
okay, yeah, go there immediately. Good call. Immediately route yourself to this diagonal. Should be a draw for black.
But I think that white, when white just went queen e7, maybe queen f6 was superior. Just that way you actually can bring the queen back to f2.
Ah, good point, yeah. No, you might have missed this. I think she was obviously drawn to the idea of pinning the knight on g7, but you're right. Maybe the queen was better on f6. Okay, if Nagel just settles on the draw, what he's saying is that it's not going to come down to the angles on Nagel's board. It's coming down to the one and only Gurevich.
And Gurevich is crushing Awonder Liang.
Well, that might be it then. That might be the match. Liang, who already took care of business against both Tang and Bartholomew and Nagel. Liang is 3-0 headed into this game, but he's...
They drew Bartholomew. Liang was winning, but I think that game ended up...
Okay, yeah. So, wow, huge. I mean, if Gurevich wins this, we will see the Minnesota Blizzard maintain their undefeated edge, taking down the only other remaining undefeated team left in the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers. So,
and those are some nice pass pawns, aren't they, Danny?
Yeah, that's nasty.
So, okay, queen g2. You have to queen.
He's going to let him get a second queen and play bishop g4. Watch.
Well, bishop. So
if b7, bishop g4, queen with check.
Well, watch out for queen takes f2 even, right? So b7, queen takes f2. I guess the king can run away. So the king is probably in time to run away, but that's...
Okay, yeah, he has to take it, but that means bishop g4 comes in with check, and then f2. Oh, no, knight e5. Okay, duh.
Well, bishop a6. I bet you can check in the other diagonal.
Oh, bishop a6 check, yeah. King moves, queen takes f2. I mean, it still feels like the king should get away, but this is super close.
Yeah, knight c4 looks wrong, but maybe it's possible.
All of these games are honestly coming down to the wire. By the way, Nagel did draw against Jennifer Yu. He simply took the queen perpetual, everybody, so that's why the scoreboard shows a half a point there between Nagel and Yu. Knight c4.
John Bartholomew turned the tables here, although it's very unclear. Both players have under 20 seconds left. Bartholomew down under 10 now, under 9, under 8. He better move. Shetty's a pass pawn on the 7th rank and another pass.
He's trying to deal with moves like knight f6 and then rook d7. That was the threat for white, everybody. So he puts the knight on d3 to block the d file, rook c6. He's running out of time. So, okay, the rook's just going to come back to c5, and the knight's going to... We're either going to see one of those anticlimactic... I think that's what we're about to see. Tickle leaves everyone on status. Okay, very good, Shetty. We don't want any tickle to end this one.
So go rook d8. Go rook d8.
Rook d8. Rook d8 was winning for white, I think. Keeping black on edge. But even this is winning. Now he has rook d8 again.
Knight
rook d8 again is over, because if he takes it, if he doesn't, it was mate.
Yep.
Yeah, rook d8 was just winning, because if the king moved up, everybody, we had mate.
But now knight d6, right? Yep. He's punishing him anyway.
Okay, not Nagel. Bartholomew's looking for tactics, but without any time on the clock, here comes knight e7 check, followed by queen.
Check. Or g7 g8 is the better queen.
G7 g8, yeah. Always knew you preferred the G spot for getting queens, Robert. Let's move on to the game between Tang and Shaba.
Okay, so Shaba is no, that's a passed H pawn. How did that happen?
Yeah, what in the world? Tang broke through, which is huge because we were counting this as a draw, which made it...
I don't like Tang pushing h5 so early. It's probably still very good.
Yeah, but how did he break through there? What did we misunderstand about this endgame, if anything, or was there a draw? Was there a blunder by Shaba? I don't want to leave the live moment, but How did it go from the rook and knight have nowhere to run? I mean, there's nothing to do to this position where Tang is going to win, which he needed to do, by the way, because Bartholomew just lost. We could see the only two undefeated teams remaining here, everybody in this Atlantic division, come to an 8-8 tie, because with Tang winning this game, well, what happens if Tang wins this game? I thought we were headed toward an 8-8 tie, but I guess Liang's not going to be able to win. It's going to be a draw.
Let's see.
But he is the only one who can win.
How did this happen?
I have no idea how. I don't know how Shaba ended up losing that game against Tang either. This was a crazy end to this match.
Also, somehow I feel like Black is going to win this game.
I don't know. No, knight takes e3 was. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. No, it wasn't a draw.
Okay, that's maybe go king d5 because the knights can't lose at tempi, which is really frustrating for the knight.
Yeah, but all he has to do now is find a way to sack on e3 and it's over. Yeah, here he goes. Knight c2, draw.
Now
what is he doing?
Wrong way, king d5. Just do it. King d5. No, wrong way.
Knight c2 was just a draw, sacking on e3.
So look, he keeps trying to lose a tempo. They're both like freaking out because they're in time.
Because they have no time. Yeah.
So
knight d1, knight d1, sack on e3. Okay, this also works. If you take e3, it's over. Drawing king and pawn ending, and the Blizzard win.
You better see it.
And they just drew.
By agreement. Wait, did they... What?
Oh, you know what happened? They repeated the position too many times, and one of them must have claimed a draw.
Well, that knight's on d5, not on b5, so I don't know how that happened. So wait, did Minnesota...
I have no idea. Did somebody offer a draw?
So Minnesota wins 8.5, 7.5.
Minnesota wins, and they move on, remaining the only undefeated team in the league.
That's
wow, and none of those games ended the way we saw them ending a few moves ago.
That was frantic. Okay, but we still have... I mean, there's so much action there, but we still have 8 games left, right? All of the other matches are still... The 2 other matches are still in play. Montclair and Montreal tied at 6. Webster is up 6.5, 4.5 on Buenos Aires. So Buenos Aires had a point penalty. So really, it's 6.5, 5.5 over the board. They lost the point because they were not orderly with their team management.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
Okay. Go to?
Well, there's too many places to go. Hardly enough time.
We got to go to the Montclair match. Let's start with Dan Smith versus. We'll start with board 4 because I'm going to kick us away from here in a second.
Okay.
So with the white, Dan Smith has earlier sacrificed a pawn, clearly on the f5 square, and now Black is up 1, and it looks like the most blockaded position I've ever seen, though I think Black is eventually going to end up winning this game. Though now a4 might be a shot for White. I think Black has potentially not been as careful as he should, because a4 might break open that a file in a way that Black is not going to be comfortable with. But I don't know. Maybe it's still just, that at least, White's getting active very quickly. So a4 felt like a necessity.
You just have to play it now. Just play it. I mean,
but the team situation might call for him to make a draw. But
yeah, so he's sitting tight, I guess.
I think a4 was a decent shot there, but now
there's no more shot of getting a4. I think with Black fully coordinated on the a file.
And I'm not sure that actually White can just sit forever, because at some point Black might reroute the knight to g8 and play f6. So you have to be very careful here. Okay, let's see the other games. Lenderman has 30 seconds left against Van Forest, and Van Forest is trying his best to hold a draw here, but he's going to be down. If I'm Black here, rook d5, so he's giving up the knight. Oh, because knight c6 check was a threat. The pawn d7 is pinned, so if the rook stayed on d4, knight c6 check would have picked up the rook. So he gave up the knight. He has 4 pawns for that knight, and I don't know.
Obviously Black is the only one who can win, but
for sure.
I mean, never say never when there's a knight on the board in online chess, right? Because forks happen.
That's very true.
Okay, he's trying to work it to get to d7.
So now
if Lenderman wants to win, depending on how he feels about the match, you could have tried to run with king e5 and give up the pawn and see if you can make some magic go with the passed pawns.
Yeah, and Dan Smith did play a4, by the way. So he got, because Dr. O was messing around, and now all of a sudden Dan Smith went A4. So I'm just bopping around from game to game to see.
Well, let's take a look at the fact. Oh, wow. What in the world happened there? I was just about to say, let's take a look at the board one match where the top players face off, but somehow Eric has already lost with white. Not the best day for the Chessbrah founder, Chessbrah boss, if you will. So somehow, Eric, I don't even know if we really have a lot of time to look at this, but I'm gonna run through quickly.
He just blundered a rook? Wait, what?
I'm looking.
He blundered a rook.
I'm going here on the main board rather than the analysis board to see what happened, but things were going just fine for white here and for black. Both sides, I think it's about equal, but
Bishop b6 instead of bishop g1. That way you close off the b file. Wow, bishop g1 is, unfortunately for Eric Hansen, candidate for blunder of the week. I mean, that's...
yeah, I'm not even to the position yet, but I'm getting there. There you go.
Not even if there is blunder of the week.
I see. Bishop g1 just hangs the rook because of the pawn pinned. If he plays bishop to b6, I mean, just in the final position here, if he plays bishop b6, as the eval bar tells us, the position is totally equal. Maybe if anybody's better, it's white. Eric just blundered the game away with bishop to g1.
Not good. Really not good.
Sad for Eric. That could cost his Chessbrahs the match, as the Sopranos are already in a position where they have guaranteed themselves a tie. With Eric Hansen going down on board one, well, it's going to come down to, I mean, let's go to the game that's moving faster than a mile a minute between Lenderman and Van Forest. Wow, Van Forest managed to clear away all the pawns, and he's in a position where he has to try to win with rook and knight versus rook, which for those of you who don't know is the hardest theoretically drawn ending to win, meaning things like rook and bishop versus rook are also winning, but in many ways it's harder to defend that than it is to win it. Whereas this one, as you can see, short of black, literally just blundering into a fork. It's very hard to lose these endgames with the rook versus the rook and knight. There's just always a check, and the knight just doesn't coordinate well enough to make it hard for black.
And Lenderman's been doing very well on the clock because he was down earlier, is like 4 seconds, and he's worked his way back up to around 15, 17 seconds.
Yep.
And that's really all you need. I mean, he does, if he gets down under 7 seconds, he could get himself in trouble because it's going to be a bit tricky at certain moments. But he's doing everything right, pinning the knight forever. Now that leaves us with, if Van Forest can't win, then it's a moot point. But Dan Smith is now taking the advantage against Dr. O because he did everything he wanted on the A file. Now there's going to be some problems with the D5 pawn. In fact, I think white can probably trade once on A5. So trade a pair of rooks. Rook takes A5. Rook A5, B5, Rook takes A5, then Rook E1 because the D5 pawn would have fallen. I do not like the move King C1. Yeah, that allows black to take on B4. So I'm kind of bopping around both games there, but I think that now all of a sudden Dr. O is back into his winning chances territory. And so saw Dr. Bassem win. So okay, Lenderman just needs to not lose this. That is all. He's doing really well on the clock. It's over 20 seconds. But we also have the Buenos Aires matchup remaining as well. So Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about their match because they're down 7-5. Does that say 7-5? So they're really down 7-6, and the penalty is killing them.
Yeah, the extra point penalty is killing them, and that's what happens when you don't have your bleep together, as they say. Bleep happens.
I thought you were talking about bleep because it's Jacques Bleat.
Jacques Bleat, bleep, bleep, deep, deep, beep, beep. Oh, I miss you, Mario. Okay, well, huge games for the Chessbrahs. Let's stick with this. I think it's interesting to see whether any blunders happen here. I think we're moments away from Lenderman reaching the 50 moves he needs to ensure that this is just a draw. But with only 5 seconds.
Yeah, I told you the under the 7 seconds part is very tricky.
Yeah, no, this is where. Oh, he just blundered the knight with check. No, what? If he took it, it was mate. Okay, I'm sorry. Clippable moment by Danny being. I thought he blundered the knight for a second. Rook takes e6, king f5 would have been a fork of the rook and mate. Everybody, whoa, Danny, calm down. Sorry about that. I freaked out.
Me. I had no idea
I did. I was looking at the board. I was freaking out. Not every day a knight is hanging with check and you can't take it. Okay, but Linderman's doing what he needs to do here. Playing just quickly enough, keeping it awkward. Uh-oh. No, he still has the rook to come around. No! That's a horrible move. He just blundered into mate.
Rookie 6 check.
Oh, he's got the stalemate, and he finishes with the draw by stalemate. Brilliant draw finish there by Linderman. And with it, the Montclair Sopranos clinch the victory.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's why you got to know how to defend your endgames, kids, because right there, that's how you save your chess matches. Again, a sad loss in terms of how it happened for the Chessbrahs. We know that Eric Hansen going to be frustrated with that blunder, but still, the Sopranos deserve credit here. They've clinched it with one game still in action between the legendary Dan Smith and Dr. O, who's not really in a position where he can win this, although he has found a way to get to the second ring. So, all right, well, with this match closed, Montclair winning officially, we're going to let it sit and move on to the games between the Webster Windmills and the Buenos Aires Kraken, starting with Eric Rosen, who's taking on De La Morte.
So what is going on here? Material count, quick material count. White is up a pawn, but black has the 2 bishops. And the dark squares around the white king seem a little iffy if you're not careful. For example, knight f1 would just blunder because bishop takes d2, removes the guard of the rook on e1. So here I'd probably go queen to e2, just bring my queen back into the defense. That way I can go knight f1 next move. And, okay, if you take the pawn on b3 and even the material, white's pawn structure is still better because you've taken my double pawn, black is still left with a double pawn in the e-file. So what about bishop takes h3? I'm always scared about things like that. Bishop h3, if you take on h3 back with the pawn, I go bishop takes e3 with check. So that was an option, bishop h3 instead of bishop f4. Now, both knight f1 and knight d5 look kind of good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rosen is going to do his best to manufacture an attack, right? To use a baseball term, Robert loves baseball. Maybe things like g5, h5, g4. But I agree. It seems like White should be able to defend this. But let's check in on some of the other games, of course, between these players. Between the players of the Krakens and the Windmills. Starting with Denis Boris. Oops, clicked on the wrong game because it moved quickly there. That is not a game in the Pro Chess League right now. There are lots of title players playing on Chess.com right now. I feel like I'm about to misclick on the games all the time. There's a lot going on. All right, Denis Boris is white against Jacques Bleet. He's sacrificed the exchange, and Bleet, looks like he's doing fine.
Although now the king is kind of entering, right? So the king go to g5 and all of a
yeah,
sudden...
no, I'm saying he's doing fine as in Boros is doing fine. He sacked the exchange and he's doing just fine. And I think he can even play e5, which threatens rook c7 in some positions. Oh, yeah, king g5 seems to be better. In fact, there's even... You start to see weird mating nets, right? We got mate on the brain.
We do. And apparently we didn't catch this because we went to Eric Hansen's game, but Amon Hamilton also blundered a rook. And
yeah, so, a weird ending there for the Chessbrahs today. Some rook karma happening there in Montreal. The Sopranos get the win, but we are moved on here to the match that's still rolling, but Boros is on pace to clinching the match for the Windmills right now. I mean, if he gets this game, the match is over. And there you go. You see the live odds being updated, the scores being updated. And in fact, according to our algorithm, it's already at 100% that the Windmills will win. That means that a game has finished that I'm not following.
Buenos Aires has a penalty. So even 8 points is all they needed because Buenos Aires had that 1 point penalty.
Ah, okay. So that's why the match is over, and they're going to win anyway, but yes.
Despite the fact that Buenos Aires got penalized, and everybody knows, last week I got in an argument with somebody in the comments, and so everyone from Argentina was happy with me, and my roommate is Argentine. So I am prefacing everything with just saying I love Argentina, I love Buenos Aires, my roommate is from Argentina. I honestly think that the Buenos Aires team is one of the weakest in the league. I'm saying it. I mean, they've lost their first 2 matches. Well, now the first 3 matches, I believe. And they haven't been particularly close. This week was closer, but they're playing Webster, and Webster did not put out their, A1 lineup, right? There's no Ray Robson, there's no Corey, there's no whoever else, all the GMs that Webster has at the top. They've put out some, plenty decent GMs in Denis Boros and Ashram Jairam, but it's not the same as their typical actual collegiate team.
I mean, they have Kwang Liem, Ray Robson on the bench this week. So I agree. I think that's a fair assessment. And, obviously there were a lot of teams that debuted in the inaugural Pro Chess League season last year. And the thing about the league's format is free agency, and sometimes your best players jump ship, as we saw Fabiano Caruana leave the Chessbrahs and now playing for St. Louis. So,
well, Greg Shahadi, I'm looking in the chat, that's Commissioner Greg. He's saying that Buenos Aires is not one of the weakest. All of their players are playing in Gibraltar, which hurts because they can't participate.
Okay.
I still think that Buenos Aires is not the team that they're cracking up to be. If you want to
look at you busting out the awkward Danny puns. Points in my book, buddy.
That was for you. All for you, Danny.
Right after these games are done, the Pacific Division will be getting underway. So if you're just joining the show, fans, don't go anywhere. Obviously, with that right there, Jacques Bleaches throws in the towel. A little surprising, but then again, White does have 4 pawns for the exchange, which is probably enough to win. Harry might get frisky on H8. So there you go. What other games are even in action here as the Atlantic Division comes to an end and the Pacific gets set to start?
I think we're on our last game, Danny.
We are in our last game, and there's several games that. So the Boris game was the last game?
No, there's one game, the Rosen de la Morte game.
Rosen de la Morte. Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. So here we go. The Windmills have clinched the match, but as you said, Rosen and de la Morte still going.
And more word from Greg Shai that last year Buenos Aires got second in the division with the same exact team. So clearly something is not right in Argentina.
Well, as you said, a lot of the strong players are in Gibraltar. So I think what Greg's trying to say, Robert, is you're wrong, and I know that's hard to.
I think as commissioner, he's trying to stay completely neutral and trying to stick up for his teams. But
right.
I don't know.
No, I think it depends on how you look at it. Sometimes you can stay the same and get worse by not going forward, right? You get worse by not evolving or not improving. What?
That was deep.
No, I mean, it's true, right? If you're the same team and other teams in your division acquire free agents, I mean, obviously the league will change year in and year out. And one of the most exciting parts about the league, and I don't know if all the fans know this, is that as the season goes on, every matchup continues to matter. Even for the teams that aren't fighting for the playoffs, you are fighting to stay in the league and avoid having to requalify. The Pro Chess League's annual system will be the regular season that we're in right now, into the playoffs and the championship weekend. But in the offseason, there will be different qualifiers that help allow other expansion teams and of course, teams that get knocked out a chance to get back in the league. So, I think that regardless of whether a team has their best season or not, they have a lot to play for. So if St. Louis is somehow out of it, and they're not, which I don't know that that's going to happen with the strong lineup they have, but let's say somehow they're out of it, it doesn't mean they're going to be sitting Fabiano Caruana and Fedoseev toward the end, because if they don't finish in the top of their division, in the top section of their division, they're going to have to requalify, and then you're risking everything, right? So that makes it a lot of fun to me to follow all the matches as the season goes on. So, well,
absolutely.
Rosen is playing. The Pacific Division is getting set to start. Let's do a little bit of a preview of that for all of you who are wondering what's up next here. Although we should stay in this one here. This is getting really interesting. Let's not go anywhere. I just looked at the clock and realized my talk about the excitement of the league is avoiding the excitement on the board. Queen B3,
actually,
Bishop 7. What?
It is getting a little bit interesting. I mean, the only thing that Black has is eventually trying to go Bishop C4. In the meantime, White's up how many pawns? 2 pawns. And, okay, so now Queen D6 is a threat. There's nowhere to attack the knight in F1 because the rook covers the C4 square. The bishop is pinned. Queen E6. So now, king f2? Get the king out of the pin? Yep.
Sitting tight. And if the knight comes to e3, this king could actually shield itself on g3 on a dark square, and don't be surprised if white turns the tables here. Okay, there's queen h4 check, which is a tricky little threat, but...
Oh, that is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So g3 was played.
Okay, but now after h4, I mean, there's weird ideas where white wiggles in here, even with moves like queen d5 coming. Okay, obviously not now, but knight d5, the d6 pawn is under fire. Somehow Rosen, whatever the initiative was that he had, short of Della Morte blundering a move like queen h3. Wait, who's blundering here? Okay, yeah, queen h6, because if the queen moved everybody, knight f6 was lights out.
Now knight e7 is
also lights out.
I have to admit something, Danny. I picked Eric Rosen in my fantasy team, and he's about to go 0-4.
You want to talk about it?
I do kind of want to talk about it. In fact, I was doing a little bit of research, trying to figure out the best matchup, and it just did not go my way.
Hey, you and I both finished near the bottom of the pack this year. I mean, this week in terms of the, our predictions. Obviously, everybody and their cousin took Magnus Carlsen on board 1, so it's nice to start with 4-0 when you have Magnus on board 1. But after that, I don't know that any of my other boards performed that well. I think I had Becerra as one of my other top boards, though. Didn't he do okay? I mean, he had the nice win against Ramirez, but maybe he didn't do okay. I don't even remember. He did lose to Caruana and Fedoseev. Okay, so Becerra didn't do okay. All right, well, this game is over. Just a matter of the formalities right now. Della Morte holding Caruana's hand. And okay.
The game was drawn?
He still made it him! Oh my god!
I saw a thing that popped up.
Game Dude, I was literally just like looking away to check in with my staff, talk about our transition, prepare the Pacific. That's why you play it out to mate, kids.
What in the...
He pre-moved h5. He pre-moved h5. Oh my gosh. Talk about a blunder. It's time for people to use our emotes. If you haven't subscribed to Chess.com on Twitch, then you don't get to do what I just did in the chat. Holy shenanigans.
Holy Shabalov. That's what that's my new...
Holy Shabalov. Holy lots of things. What a great way to end the league today, because, or at least as far as our segment goes, because this match was already over, and Rosen had no reason to play it out, but he plays it out and gets a stalemate.
That's so funny.
Hey, guess what? For your fantasy team, Rosen didn't go 0-4.
Thank you, Eric Rosen. I didn't get the donut from you.
L-O bleeping L.
Oh, my God.
Hilarious stuff, so... All right, well, what's for sure is that we have had a great time here, and we appreciate everybody who's tuned in. If you've been with us all day, then you are a trooper. We've got a lot of chess going on in the world. So, Robert, our full recap here before the Pacific Division gets underway. The Eagles take down the Dynamite. The Movers tie with the Horses. The Magicians take down the Stormbringers, and the Norms beat the Trolls. In the Central, the Migraines did work on the Lions. The Turtles squeaked by the Puffins. They crawled by the Puffins, excuse me. We had another 8-8 tie in the Snowballs versus the Mosquitoes, and the Blockbusters beat the Towers. So London having a rough day there in England. The Bishops do what they're supposed to do. They have two 2700s on boards 1 and 2, and they won by 2 points. The Blizzard, again, remain the only team that is still undefeated. So the Tang Gang in Minnesota rolls on. Really huge games all around. Daniel Gurevich, the hero there, kind of, again, I guess they're just playing well. A whole bunch of IMs doing work. Who needs the GM, right? I love that team. Take that, Grandmaster Hess. And then you got the Windmills, who took care of the Buenos Aires Krakens, but not only that, they did so by an epic stalemate. If you're just joining us, you just missed this right here. Delamorte sacrificed on f7 and pre-moved h5, but Rosen had a silly rabbit up his sleeve. Tricks are for kids. He played king h8 and backed his way into a draw and stalemate. That's going down in Pro Chess League record books right there. While the other team gets ready, Robert, we still have a little bit of time. Let's talk about what let's go through each match here. So we had the Bishops versus the Champions. To start out in the the final score is what's being shown now. To start out, the odds were much closer than that, but the 9-7 victory there by the St. Louis Archbishops takes the cake. The Windmills take down the Krakens. Blizzard again. I'm just super impressed with these guys, honestly. The Chessbrahs, I think the heartbreaker of the day there for the boys in Montreal, right? A couple of rook blunders, not their best work.
Yeah, and Montclair was 0-2 before this match, so they needed that win to get themselves back in the running.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the next division, the Pro Chess League, if you want to go to the ProChessLeague.com, of course, if you just go to ProChessLeague.com and check out the standings, you can. Remind everybody that our halftime show was brought to you by Gambit, but that's not what I'm trying to remind you of. I'm trying to remind you that go to Pro Chess League and figure out everything you need to know. I'm excited to play fantasy again next week. As long as that $10,000 prize is on the table, I'm going to keep playing. Daddy needs the money. Papa Bear needs a new pair of shoes. What about you, Robert?
I'm definitely going to play, and if not least of all, just to try to beat Greg, because it's fun arguing with him over lineups and seeing him worry about losing the commissioner's bounty.
Well, you know what's hilarious here is that well, it's not hilarious, actually. It's one of the best parts about the site. I was just bringing up the league leaders to show everybody where they can find live stats about the players. Yu Yang Yi, currently with the best record, was 7.5 out of 8 points. Okay, this was before this week. Magnus Carlsen is now 8 of 8, but if you count his overall games, he's 8 of 12 for 4 games missed, but 8 of 8. Iturizaga, like you said, having a great season so far.
Yeah, he's been playing really well. And I think Yu Yang Yi is the player to watch. That division is going to be awesome.
Yep.
I think Chengdu is the strongest team in the entire Pro Chess League. And we'll see if they can. They drew last week and see if they can win the one tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, if you're looking for other ways to follow the league, you should go to the team pages and check them out. A lot of the teams that are in the league actually have their own channels, their own broadcasts. Some of them probably more entertaining than us. Who knows? You can check them out. A lot of the pages will list that information for you. If you're looking to get a different view, sometimes a first-person view, some of the players commentating while playing. So the Pacific Division, is it underway?
Is it? I have no idea.
Not quite. For a second, I thought it had started.
I think they start in 4 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, you and I may have the call as our partners, International Master David Pruis and Grandmaster Ben Feingold, get set to get going. You and I just keep rolling on here. I mean, you want to talk about anything?
Let's see. Well, my fantasy team is awful.
Mm-hmm.
I was told by Greg that I was wrong about Buenos Aires.
Yeah. No, you've had a rough day, buddy. You've been.
Nagel didn't do as well as I wanted him to.
The Eagles?
Nagel.
I thought you said the Eagles. I'm like, they're in the Super Bowl, bro. Like, what's going on?
I'm not an Eagles fan anyway. They can. I don't care. Well, I do care. I want them to win because they're playing the Patriots.
Right. It's one of those.
Jets fan. It's hard to admit that on air, but yes, I like the New York Jets. They stink. I get
one
it.
of the. So, as of tomorrow, I guess with February's issue of Chess Life, for all those of you who are United States Chess Federation members, I wrote an article for Chess Life this month about Chess.com's cheat detection and fair play system. Kind of a piece that we probably reveal more than we've ever really talked about to the public as far as our history and how we've kind of developed the system, Robert. So it should be a fun read when you get your Chess Life this month. I'm talking about all of this for a reason. It's not just to shamelessly plug my own article on fair play. I'm talking about this because I wrote that article in December. And at the end of that article, there was a prediction made about who would win the Super Bowl. And you know who that was.
I hope you did not say the Patriots, so you said the Eagles.
Of course I said the Patriots because I make predictions that are accurate for a living, okay? Because I know how to win.
How brave are you? You went out on a limb and chose the Patriots.
I chose them in like the first week of December, bro.
So that's an easy call. Of course, they're making the playoffs. They were in line for the top seed. I'm not proud of you for this.
Whatever.
I
I don't care if you're proud of me anymore. I'm gonna go to Twitch chat, see if they can pick me up.
I'm gonna root for the Seahawks and the Rams. How does that make you feel?
The Seahawks and the Rams?
Yeah, how does that feel, you Cardinal fan?
I don't even care. I don't care. Cardinals suck. Whatever. Just kidding. That breaks my heart. Anyway,
That's mechanism.
All right, the chat's going nuts. They don't believe me. You'll read the article. You got to submit the article earlier, right? You'll find out that I told the truth. All right. Well, we're waiting on David Pruis and Ben Feingold to let us know. But I think you and I might take the call to start here for the Pacific because
I'm hungry, I'm tired, but it's fine.
Hey, you're hungry, you're tired, but we're team players here for the Pro Chess League.
That's true. So I'm gonna start trying to follow all these games. That's gonna be the first step.
Yeah, that's gonna be the first step. Well, the games are only just getting underway. The Pacific Division is just getting started. If you're somehow just joining us, if you've been here all day, and heck, if you're a subscriber to our Twitch, if you're a premium member on Chess.com, we love you. Your support helps make all of this possible. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Robert, in case you can't tell, I'm reaching here. This is where I'm reaching.
You're reaching where?
I need you to pull me up. Pull me up.
Okay. I wasn't looking at you, so I'm going to push you back down. Because you predict the Patriots, and then you hate on your own team. So
I predicted the Patriots because I'm smart. I hate on my own team because they stink. And I personally don't subscribe to the theory that a lot of people have that you are required to be a fan if they're not good. Here's the thing. These guys are making... No. Here's the thing. They call it a fair weather fan, a bandwagoner. Here's the thing. This is not the 1950s anymore, okay? None of these people are from my city. None of them care about the city. Most of them don't live there. They're all making millions of dollars. This whole thing, the reason why fan is short for fanatic, because fans are mentally ill. If you're really a crazy fan, you're biased about something that honestly they don't even care about. So if they're good, I love them. If they're not good, it's like, yo, you're making millions of dollars. Get it together so I'll come and buy a ticket.
I don't know. There are plenty of people who care about the city you play for. I think you're being a little over the. I agree with most of what you're saying, and I think you're right. Most players don't come from the city they play for, and that's true of the Pro Chess League. There's all these free agents, right? They still care about their team.
J412 Joe just subscribed because of my rant. That tells you how right I am. Thank you for the sub. Well, I don't know if it was because of my rant, but I appreciate the sub anyway.
Oh man, I'm so hungry. What am I gonna eat for Danny? What should I eat for dinner?
I don't know. Figure it out later because the games are starting. It was a gifted sub by Ambitious SZ. Say what? Thanks for the gift, yo. If anybody else wants to sub while we're still going, let's sub for every minute Robert and I have to do extra commentary. Just kidding. All right, here we go, Robert. Guess what we're doing? We're now covering the Pacific match as Andrew Gorovets and Zviad Izoria. Destiny versus Hackers. It's on.
I think we're being kicked off, honestly.
Are we being kicked off? Are they ready?
It looks like
okay, we can get out of here. Well, guess what, guys? As fun as that was for you, it was even more fun for us. And thanks for being here, everybody. The Pacific Division getting underway. David Pruis and Ben Feingold. We be out. Peace out.